live. Wait, I want to check it on my phone. It's been so long. Okay, there we go. I see myself. Cool. Sound is off. All right. There's this thing. Look. No. I just thought that I got rid of it, but it's still there. I'm using my camera and it's like connected to my laptop via like a capture device. But there's this line in there. Look. All right. Give me a second to get rid of it. If I switch cameras, okay, there's that. Then now it should be gone. Is it there? Do we still have it? I don't think we have it. No, I think we're good. Is it there? No. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like a new setup, and that's like part of the reason why I wanted to do this live stream, because like I had this setup. Okay, this is also annoying. I'm looking at myself. Can I move this? Okay, pop out chat. There you go. Okay, so now I only see the chat. I don't see myself anymore. Just if you see anything odd, well, the thing is, yeah, it might be nice to see myself as well. Anyway, I'll just switch back and forth, I guess. I don't care. Hello from Japan. So cool. Alcoop 100, or in Dutch Alcoop 100. From Japan is checking in. Yeah, I think the timing for this live stream is pretty like good for Europe and Asia, because it's like 12:30 p.m. over here, and then Asia it's like evening, I guess, Saturday night. But America it's a bit early. I guess if you're in New York, it's like, I don't know, 6:30, 7:30 ish. But if you're on the West Coast, yeah, then I'm sorry. Like I have to kind of look at where my demographics are, and I posted a few messages to a few of my old friends from Australia and from Asia as well. Great question. Where have you been? That's all we're going to talk about in this live stream, because a lot has happened over the past, I don't know, like, I guess I really have to catch you guys up for maybe even 2 years since the start of Corona, or even before that. So I made a little like points on a little sheet of paper, and we're just going to slowly, catch up, I guess. Just like talk about what has happened the past 2 or 3 years since I last made like proper videos. I know I've made a video last year in November of Svalbard, which were only 2 videos. And it's a mixture of like postponing and I guess also a bit of like not feeling confident enough to put something out there kind of thing. But yeah, that's a bit of a pity, because like that trip was honestly one of the best trips I've ever done to Svalbard, which was like a week and a half I was there, or like a week, I think. And I still have a lot of footage from that. I think I got a bit like halfway through editing the next episode, and then I kind of dropped off. Hey, we got Sydney Escape from Preston from Australia. Thanks. Yeah, good to be back on YouTube. It does feel a little bit strange, to be honest, because it's been so long. And the last time I did like a live stream, I think I was still in Australia, or I did one in Bali as well, when I was still like traveling around that time. But yeah, it's been a while, and that's why like I just wanted to do this live stream. I don't really like have a set plan other than just talking about like what has happened. Maybe a little Q&A at the end, but I see like questions popping up here, so like, yeah, I'm easily distracted by stuff. So just like a heads up, I can like just look over, and then if there's like anything coming in, then I'll probably just answer it right away. So we're just gonna hang out, just have like a little bit of a chat right here, because I feel like there's a lot to catch up on. The world has changed, we have changed, things have changed. So yeah, that's basically what's gonna happen in this little live stream right here. Well, where am I now? I am in my childhood bedroom. I have a new closet. This one is only like a couple of weeks old, but for the rest, this has basically been my room since, not since I was born. I was actually in a different room in the house when I was born, and then my brother came when I was 6 years old, and then he moved into that room, and now I'm in this like attic room, I guess, which is pretty interesting. I mean, I have spent here a big chunk of the past 2 years or 3 years or so, but not all of it. I did do some traveling, and we're gonna get to that. And in the future, I do plan to do a lot more traveling, and being in this room a little bit less. So, but anyways, we're also gonna like talk about the time I have spent here and what I've been doing and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm currently back home in the Netherlands, where I was born and bred, kind of like back in my roots, which was kind of a very nice thing after the last trip I was on, which was this summer. I went to Taiwan. I was there from end of March this year until around like half August. That's when I came back. So I spent there like a good 5 months this year in a city called Tainan, it's not Taipei. Taipei is like in the north. If you're familiar with Taiwan, you have Taipei, which is like the big, the capital city, then the main hub in the north. And I don't know why I chose this other city. I really wanted to see Taiwan for myself. Well, the reason being is because I was learning Mandarin, or I learned Mandarin in middle or in high school. And I just wanted to go live in a place where they spoke Mandarin. And so kind of like the choice was either China or Taiwan. Now at the time, getting a visa for China was pretty much impossible. Only if you had like, a company there, or you had like an actual valid reason of being there. Oh yeah, please let me know if you don't hear me clearly anymore, or let me know if you hear me clearly, by the way. So because I'm using like the microphone on this camera. So I did a quick dry run this morning. My shot is looking pretty good on my phone, so I think everything's going well. So yeah, anyways, did that. Went to Taiwan because the visa situation there, which actually I waited for like a year. I was trying to go there already in May last year. I think I did my first like visa application attempt. And at that time, there was like a corona outbreak in Taiwan. So they closed all the borders until further notice, which meant I just had to wait again. So I waited for like half a year. And then I was like, isn't there any other way to go here? Because like it was sort of the visa that I was applying for that was closed down, but there were still other visas I could apply for. One of which being a student visa. After 10 months, he's alive. Yeah. I'm still alive. But anyway, so yeah, there was this student visa that I could also apply for. Like I think there was like a work visa you could apply for, but then you would have to have a job in Taiwan and that sort of stuff. So I went the student route. So I signed up for a Mandarin Chinese study at one of the like most popular universities in Taiwan. Most of them are in Taipei, but there was this one other. I think it's like the second largest university called Cheng Kung University, which was in Tainan, which is about a 3-hour drive from Taipei. It's like all the way in the southwestern corner. And yeah, the other things that I knew about this place is that it was like the food capital of Taiwan. So there's like a lot of like interesting food here. The name is Cheng Kung University, or in Chinese it will be 成功大学. Yeah, my Chinese definitely improved since going there for sure. Because in Taipei, like it's a pretty international city, but this city was not very like, other than the university, it was pretty like local, So like I really had to utilize the Chinese language. So that was very cool. That was a very interesting experience. But anyways, I think first of all, let's kind of like catch up from way back when I was traveling through Southeast Asia. So that's kind of like where I guess I started to upload less to YouTube, and there is still a lot of questions about like what happened after that, which are kind of going to play a role again in the future, I hope, including YouTube. I mean, the thing is I've been wanting to go back for multiple times now. Like I've already made like multiple attempts, and yeah, it's sort of like a bit of like a timing thing, and then there are just like things going on. So anyways, this is like me just saying like, okay, I have some time now. I want to do a live stream. I want to catch up with you guys. and let's just see, like, let's see what's gonna happen if I'm gonna do it more or not. Like, that's sort of like still a little bit up in the air. But I want to keep it like very like lightweight. I'm not gonna say like, okay, from now on we're gonna upload every week or something like that. Because like I currently still work a different job, which I'm actually gonna do part-time again. I was doing that full-time for the past 5 weeks, but I'm gonna go to part-time. So I'm very happy with that. I'll have some time to do other things. But anyways, let's rewind a bit. Let's go back about, yeah, let's say 2.5 years back in time. And at the time, I was traveling through Southeast Asia. Where I was actually living in Bali. I lived in Bali for, I think, a total of like 2.5 or 3 months or so. Basically, had a great time there. Like, my life was amazing. Like, Bali is a great place. I had a good time. Everything was going well. Even had a relationship there. Things were looking very up. Like, I was a very motivated person at the time. Like, I was very upbeat about life. Like, there was a lot of like good things happening. The only problem is I didn't have that much money. So there was this time, actually, there's still this video up that was at the time I posted like a video on, like, if you want to watch more of my content, go to Patreon. But I also hadn't really been uploading on YouTube for a long time because I basically needed some money. This was kind of like my way of thinking, like, yeah, this is the way I'm going to get it. But of course, it didn't really work out. And in the end, I haven't posted to Patreon in a long time as well. Lost pretty much all of my patrons, unfortunately. I think there's still actually one person that's still paying me $5 a month. And I think Jayo is also still a member there, which is very interesting. But I even sent him a message like, dude, I'm not posting anything anymore. You don't have to do this anymore. But I guess he kind of forgot. Anyway, so yeah, I don't really know. That's another topic. But yeah, that kind of was kind of like an attempt at like, yeah, how am I going to be able to do this sustainably? Because at the time I was living a good life, but I couldn't keep that up for a long time because like basically money would run out and all of this sort of stuff. So I had to find a way to make it sustainable. And like, I did a bit of Patreon, but yeah, it wasn't really like a lot. And also like YouTube income wasn't really enough. So there were some other ways at the time that I was already doing, which was programming, coding, or making websites, basically. Started with making WordPress websites. I made Gio Nation's Matthew Gallett's website as well at the time. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold, so let me get this out. There you go. Yeah, it's the weather. It's cold now, and my body's not used to the cold after being in Taiwan for like 5 months, and it was like always 30 degrees there. Anyways, so yeah, I was doing a lot of coding. At the time, I was still a freelancer, so I was basically doing like short gigs here and there. So like if someone needed a website, I could make a website for them. Like these short kind of like gigs that sometimes would be a lot, but sometimes would not really be a lot. So that also wasn't super sustainable because I was actually very good at the coding, but I wasn't very good at the marketing part, I guess. So I was mostly like making websites for people that were in my network, like in my circle, which in the beginning was quite a lot of stuff, and I was still profitable. But once those were like set up, it was a bit hard for me to find new things. And personally, I found the marketing part always a bit like, yeah, I don't know. I want to do more with it. Like I actually really currently am very interested in that sort of stuff, like sales and marketing and kind of like advertising or like putting yourself out there a bit more. But at the time, I just wanted to learn better how to code, and I at the time was more like, okay, maybe it's better to have like a job for a little period of time, and then with that experience I can later then branch out again into like a freelance setup, or maybe even like my own company, or making my own applications or stuff like that. So that was kind of like my plan. I also had a relationship in Bali at the time, and yeah, it was a bit of a, how to say, like hard situation. Like at the time it was great, but we were like, we're not going to look at the near future because we really don't know what's going to happen. And we really didn't know what's going to happen because at the time Corona was not yet in the picture, or it was still like a flu in China. I think this was like October or November 2019 when I was there. And in December of 2019 I went back home. So this was before Corona. A lot of people say like, oh, you came home because of the virus, but actually already before that I came home to do a coding bootcamp. So this was kind of like a very intensive course. I didn't want to pick up a study. I've never really been a fan of like doing like a study for 4 years. It's pretty interesting because a lot of people here say like people are here like take a gap year, but I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna take a gap life. So like my gap year just became like 2 years, 3 years, and currently, like, when did I graduate from high school? It's already been a while. I think that was like 2017 or so. Basically when I started cycling, which is like 4 years ago. So that was like, or almost 5 years ago, I think, at this point. So that's still, I could still study potentially. Like if I wanted to pick up like a university study, I could do it. But at this point, I don't really feel like doing that just yet. So anyways, I gotta get some tea. Seal Lee is here as well. It's a good friend from that I've never met, but I think I like got to meet him on like this language exchange applications. So like I was practicing my Chinese with him, and he was like practicing his Dutch with me, which was actually a lot of fun. And he gave me a lot of tips about like Tainan and that sort of stuff. And indeed, Seal, I had a great time in Taiwan and in Tainan. It was amazing. More on that later. Anyways, we're still at backtrack the bootcamp. There we go. So that bootcamp was like 2 months, and it was like 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. We were sitting in this like little classroom in Amsterdam. It was very close to the Amsterdam like train station, like that, like middle of the center. There was actually a nice ferry we had to take from the train station, which was actually very cool. I posted, I think, a few pictures from that time. But that was basically just like 2 months of full on learning how to become a developer. And at the time, I already had some like coding experience, so I wasn't a total beginner, but there were some total beginners there, basically. Oh, my throat is a bit scrappy already. I haven't talked like so long in a while. So anyways, that was a very interesting experience. Like you were just like with a group of, I think we were like 15 people or so. And indeed, there were some people that had never coded before. And that was kind of like the marketing of this website is like, you don't need any experience. And within 2 months, you can be a developer. Well, in reality, that's really like hard. Because it was a very intensive like group or a very intensive curriculum as well. Like if you already were behind, like within the first week, like you basically had it really hard for the rest of those 2 months. But I was lucky to already have had some coding experience. So for me, like the coding basics were pretty easy to do. We actually learned like a new coding language, for me at least. That was Ruby. I'd only been coding in JavaScript at that time, or HTML, CSS, JavaScript. If you want to know more about like web development stuff, then let me know, because I've been thinking of opening like a web development specific YouTube channel as well. But maybe first just focus on reviving my old channel, TravelingTice, which I haven't been using for so long. Hope can meet you one day somewhere in the world. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's see how it goes. Indeed, I'll be roaming around. I won't stay here for very long. I cannot really do that. So yeah, let's see how it goes. Anyways, let me just quickly glance over here. What's going on? Oh, we got 13 viewers. Wow, 7 likes. So I see there are less likes than viewers. So if you haven't liked yet, just give it a like. Give it a like. The dislike is unfortunately or fortunately removed. Don't know what your opinion on that is, but I feel like it sometimes can be a good indicator to know if you're doing something right or not. I actually just did a test as well. If you're posting a comment that has like some bad words in it, they won't show. Like they're being filtered out. I think there's some like AI technology that all wasn't there before. That's all pretty new, which is pretty interesting. Oh, well, anyway. So yeah, we were in December. No, this was like January or half January until half March 2020. Now we all know timeline wise what happened halfway through March 2020. At this time, I was wrapping up this bootcamp experience. I remember we had like a closing night where we were going to present the applications that we built during this 2-month course. Like the last 2 weeks, we were kind of paired up in a small little group, and you would work like Scrum wise, which is like a method of, I guess, like working on a project that a lot of companies currently handle. And we were kind of like practicing that during these 2 weeks to kind of like make a project together, like an actual application. Or, I mean, at the time we were just learning like a web framework, meaning it was just like a website. So we would like demo this website, and like friends and family could come over, and that was actually a really nice night because like you actually became very close to the people that you have been like together with for 2 months, you know. So like it's a small group as well. So you just experience a lot together in those 2 months. And also the Amsterdam life was really nice. I was still like coming back each night to my small little village, but sometimes we were like invited for like a night out, and then you would like actually go into Amsterdam and all that sort of stuff. And there were like some networking events as well, or like some weekend events. So that was actually really really nice time. It was cold though. It was January, so it was like winter. But yeah, it was just a lot of fun to be doing that at the time with those group of people. The group was also very diverse. Like you had people of my age. You also had like a few older people, all different walks of life as well. That sorry, that just had like 2 months, and they wanted to change their lives and become a developer, I guess. Or there were also like different reasons why people were doing this. Like for example, there were some people that were already working in a company, maybe as like a marketer, or they had like their own company, and they just wanted to know more about developer world, because oftentimes that's very separate from like a different department in the company. So there were people for various different reasons. Like some people made it, some people had to do a bit more coding to, you know, get a job or anything like that. And I think that was like the main value point from this bootcamp, which was that like this bootcamp had like a pretty big network. So there was like in the end you were like into like a Slack group. If you know Slack, it's kind of like a work chat. So it's kind of like a WhatsApp group call or Discord. Maybe you know Discord, like any gamers, or I guess it's not only used for gaming, it's also used for other things. But yeah, you have like different channels, and it's like, you know, you can talk to a lot of people, and Slack was kind of like a similar thing. And this bootcamp had like a Slack group with like different channels that would say like, you know, job requests or job offers, you know, that sort of stuff. So you could very easily link yourself to people that might need people. And of course, like the curriculum from Le Wagon, that's the name of the bootcamp, Le Wagon, was the same across all bootcamps. So they immediately knew what type of skills you had, where you were good at, and then you also had like your like those last 2 weeks was like your project. That was like immediately your portfolio project. So if you'd never had like any coding experience before, you already had like a portfolio with at least 1 or 2 projects in it. So you're basically off. And during the end, there was even like a professional photographer, so that could take like professional LinkedIn pictures of you. So you are like completely prepped for for the job market, which was very interesting. Um, and I learned a lot there as well. I mean, I already had some basic coding experience before that. Like I was already doing like my own applications at the time, but this really like leveled up my my skill set, which is pretty interesting because for people that had never done coding before, this is like a very good intro for them. But it was also very very fitting for sorry. Like this was also very fitting for people that already had some experience like me that could just like learn like everything from start to finish again, um, as well as a lot of like soft skills, like for example the scrum or how to work together. Like you were just like paired up in a team. You weren't like doing coding alone all the time. You were actually, I think every day you were paired up with someone to kind of work together. But most of the time, like if they were doing their exercises, I was already done like halfway through the day while they were like working on it the whole day. So yeah, at some point, like working together with me was just like asking me a question how to do something like that. And but yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like I learned a lot from that as well. So definitely worth it. The only thing is it's really expensive. Like 2 months, I think I paid like 6,000 euros, which is like, well, USD is like around the same at this point. So like 6,000, which is a lot of money. And I think they even like bumped the price right now. So it's yeah, it's definitely an investment. So if you cannot really afford it, I wouldn't necessarily recommend depending on something like this. There are a lot of free ways to learn how to code if you want to pick that up for example. So yeah, that's what I did, and then indeed, as I said, we had that like end presentation at half March, and already at the time, like people or family was still invited to come, but you already had to be very cautious, and then it just went very quickly because actually right after this bootcamp, I went back to Bali. Like I think the week after, I was on a plane back to Bali for a couple of weeks to see my girlfriend. But yeah, that didn't really work out as expected. Yeah, that was a very weird time, um, which was weird for everyone. Like I think everyone kind of has their own story of kind of what transpired back then, and my story was very how to say was very like, yeah, how to explain that. There was just like a lot of like, because my life until that point was going pretty well. Things were like smooth sailing, and but like at the time, anything that you thought was possible suddenly wasn't possible anymore. Um, in my case, that was travel. Like I always took travel. Yeah, I took it pretty much for granted, or kind of for granted. Like I just like if there was a plane available, I would just went on the plane, sort of thing. Like and I think for me, what the most um, or maybe not the hardest, but like definitely like one thing that really affected me was the isolation that came after it, and not just isolation in a house, like physical isolation, but also just like communicational isolation. Which I feel like before COVID, I mean, you're always kind of like romanticizing the past. So it probably wasn't the case like this in everybody's experience, but in my experience, it was a very open and communicative society. Like if you were to go to Bali, for example, like you would very easily get involved with people, or like at the time there was still like couch surfing, which I did a lot. So like there was a very big community feel when I was traveling. So I was never really scared of going to like a different place. Hey, Jayo's back. Good to see you. Good to see you again. It must be early over where you are, Matt. So glad you're able to check in. We're just talking about like I'm just talking about like whatever transpired the past 2.5 years since Corona basically happened. Yeah, 7 a.m. That's what I thought. Yeah, early. But nice that you're there. So basically, I talked about like everything that happened when or right now we're at the COVID story. So like how COVID, like March 2020 when everything kind of like transpired, how that affected me. And but yeah, so during this time I went to Bali, and I think when I left or when I was in the plane in Amsterdam, there were already some people like that were asked like, were you in this country just before this flight? So for example, there was a guy I think like sitting behind me, and they asked him like, were you in France before this flight? And if he answered yes, he had to get off the plane. So that was very strange experience to have at that point. Like I feel like even until that point, oh no, I think at this point Corona was already there, because I remember my parents dropped me off at the airport, and like shops were already closed, like restaurants were already closing down. I think that day, that's when like the country basically went into a lockdown. Um, so yeah, on the plane, people were being like asked to get off the plane, and I had a layover in Singapore. And during my flight, a rule was implemented in Singapore that domestic or people that like live their residents couldn't fly out anymore. And that was actually being implemented while I was in the air. So like this plane was pretty booked from Singapore to Bali, but a lot of people just could not join that flight anymore. So that second bit from Singapore to Bali was pretty empty. I think I was like together with, well, there were still like a few people in that plane, but yeah, it was strange. It was really weird. I think, yeah, I remember at the time also like I was looking on my phone, and then like the flight was canceled, but I was looking at the wrong flight or something like that, and there was just this like atmosphere at the airport of like total confusion of what was going on. Like people just didn't know. And I remember going to like a souvenir shop, and then we had like conversation about like, I don't know when I'll be able to open up again, or it was just so strange of a time to be traveling basically. So, but I landed in Bali. Over there, I think I didn't really imagine telling these stories to you 5 years ago. So that's the thing. You just have no idea. Like that's you cannot imagine that this happened. So that was yeah, that was just crazy. In Bali, I think I didn't really notice that much yet. Oh yeah, I think at the time that was because people thought that Corona couldn't really survive well in high temperatures. So at the time, I also like talked to some people, and they were like, "Yeah, Corona doesn't survive when the temperature is over 35 degrees." Like he was very convinced of that. So I mean, people just didn't know. Like they just didn't know. And yeah, it's like Bali was still pretty open at the time, but people were scared. Like I remember, because at the time Europe was the place where everything started to spread. So like Western people, and especially me, because I just came from winter in Europe. So I'm already white, but at the time I looked extra white because I hadn't had much sunshine for like, a couple months. So I was pretty, I was catching some ice there. And yeah, that's just like a very interesting time. Also, when I landed, there was this like message from the Dutch government saying that every Dutch person that's currently outside the country to go back immediately, which is something you just like you would never hear. Like that was just really insane. Like I didn't know what to do. Luckily, my mom is a travel agent, so she has some like contacts, and she was able to get me on a earlier flight. Like I think I was flying back 3 weeks later, so I was going to be in Bali for 3 weeks, but she was able to get me on a flight that was like only I think 10 days later. But anyways, I think for the first couple of days I just like stuck it out for a little bit. I wasn't very how to say, I wasn't very bothered about it. I tried to just enjoy my time there, because like I also had a relationship, and things were also kind of like not going very smoothly and in that front, and this definitely didn't help with that. Yeah, which in the end was very strange because I actually didn't even get to see her a lot because her parents were scared that I was bringing over COVID. And I also wasn't actually feeling that great at the time. Like I had like a bit of a stomach ache, or I wasn't eating well. So I remember like one time I was eating with them, and then I didn't eat that much because they had this like Balinese fish, and I just came from Europe where the cuisine is very different. And yeah, it was just like because you don't know, right? Like you just don't know what's going on. And me during that time going to like a different place or traveling or doing like what I did, that was mentally a bit taxing. Like that was definitely like, I was going here and then I was trying to make it work, or like just it was just out of your control. So at the time I was like, should I stay here or should I go back? I mean, I really did not have any money at that point. Like I even borrowed money to be able to do this boot camp that I did the months before. um, and my also finding a job in Bali at the time, it was just a better idea to go back. So then 10 days later, I went back. Was a bit down, of course, because, of everything that transpired. Like you didn't want it to go that way, or I didn't want to go back, like, but yeah, there was something that's already kind of snapped at that time. But that came apparent a couple months later. I don't really want to go too much into that. Anyways, after that was quarantine life. I came back end of March, so it was like a week later, I think, or 10 days later, coming here from Bali. The weather was great at the time. Like I basically brought back Bali weather. I remember like for a couple months, it was just like sunny here, so that was very nice. But yeah, sitting. Well, not sitting inside. Like we were often like sitting in the front yard where we have like a lot of sun here, and family time, because I came back and pretty much right away went into this boot camp. So like time with family was also very limited. So that was actually also very nice that I was able to spend like quality time with my own family after actually not seeing them for 1.5 years, because I lived in Australia for a year before that, and I traveled like Southeast Asia for pretty much a half a year. So um, yeah, that was like actually very nice that I was able to see them for kind of forced, but still, trying to make the most of it at the place. Oh, sorry, I'm touching the camera. Are we still good? Because this like capture card is very sensitive, so it's like I already knocked it over once, and then like the stream disconnected, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, um, so yeah, that's how that was actually kind of a nice thing. I suddenly had a lot of time, so I just went to work. I started polishing my portfolio, started to learn a lot more about coding, did more projects myself. Um, was working with Matt actually also on like an application for like a product database that then you can like generate quotes with. And actually during that project I learned a lot, because like I made like several iterations of it. I made like a first iteration which was like really crappy before the bootcamp. I learned a lot from that. Then after the bootcamp I was like, okay, I now know how to do things better. Like my skills were higher. I knew how to like connect like a proper database. I knew how to do like backend coding, like Ruby. And Ruby on Rails is like a very new framework and all that sort of. It's not a new framework, but it was like, for me it was a new framework, and I was really enjoying working with it. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this all over again, and made like a very new application again, and that made me learn even more about it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, definitely, we should definitely have a talk sometime. Yeah, let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. But so yeah, that was I learned a lot from that, and I also made like a few of like my own projects as well. Like for example, I always had a hard time to, and there are probably applications for this, but to like kind of track my finances, because I had like at the time I had like an Australian bank account, I had a Dutch bank account, I had PayPal, I had like all of these different places where there was money. So I made like an application that kind of bundles everything together, and then every day you would like consciously fill in the amount of money that you had, and then like there were like graphs generated and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I was a pretty big nerd at the time. Still am, I guess. But so yeah, that was actually very good. And then I basically had to find a job. Now, luckily, as I said, the bootcamp provided you with a nice network of people that you could reach out to. So I think this was around like April or May of 2020. I started to reach out. I mean, at the time, the market was pretty interesting because Corona just happened, and so I was at the time I was a bit tense. Like I had to basically find a job because I had some outstanding debt and all that sort of stuff. So there was a bit of pressure to find something. One thing that was nice though is that remote work was the norm. Because that's what I actually wanted to find. I wanted to find a remote job that I could then like bring with me if I were to travel again. That was like the dream situation. So basically, I was like looking for a job, and then there was this one like recruitment platform that was kind of like linking developers. Like you had like a profile on there, and then that would link developers to companies that were looking for developers. But a lot of people were making me scared. Like, no, this is a very bad time. Like, the economy is bad, all that sort of stuff. Like, you really have to do your best to land a job and that sort of stuff. And at the time, like, I did have a conversation with one company, and that was very interesting because they actually profited from Corona a lot because they were a streaming company, or like a webinar streaming platform. So like you can kind of compare it to Zoom or YouTube Live. Like we actually take a lot of inspiration from YouTube Live as well. But it was more geared towards webinars. Like it's also in their company name, like webinar, which is like online seminar. So it was very like targeted to how to say, like online class. Well, not really online classroom, more of like, because webinars can be used for many different things. Like for example, it can also be a sales tactic. Like for example, you're going to give a webinar about learning, I don't know, like learning how to code or something like that. And then like at the end, you can say like, oh, download this book that I have for like $20, or it can also be like an advertising tactic. So yeah, that was basically the company that reached out to me, and they said that they basically tripled their revenue since Corona, or I don't know if it was like tripled their customer base or revenue. I don't know exactly, but they basically tripled in size or traffic since since COVID broke out. Like they were in a very good position because like all of these that normal, like you had like a classroom with people now had to be done online. And we were definitely geared towards, or they were definitely geared towards like that scenario where, like, for example, you can start polls and quizzes. You can have like, certain interactions with viewers that, for example, something like Google Meet or Zoom or YouTube doesn't really have. So that was kind of like their, how do you call it? Like USP, unique selling point. Anyways, at the time I was like, just spread your wings as much as possible. So that was like one recruitment bureau that I was signed up with, and there was this other one I was signed up with. In the beginning I was only looking for remote, but I kind of already gave up on that idea because they basically only look for people that had like real experience. So I was just like everywhere. Like I was trying to really, almost desperately trying to find a job at the time. And that was interesting because this company was actually the first one to reach out to me. And I had like a conversation with. So anyways, went on the first interview, which was just like getting to know them, talking about what I've done, which skills I had in the web development industry, that sort of stuff. And that actually went really well. So then there was a second interview where I had to, I think, like show a bit of my work, like code wise, or at least like do like a demo of one of my projects, and also like go into like how I set things up. And I think I even used PDQE at the time, kind of did like a demo and then like showed how I set things up and that sort of stuff. And then the third interview was a test. So basically they gave me like an actual assessment, like a thing to do. I actually had to program something for them, which was something I'd never done before. I don't want to tell it because, you know, like they kind of want to keep it secret, but that was pretty interesting. Like I had to actually like, I had to make a website and I had to do like certain things on this website basically. And that's the great thing about coding is that if you want to become a good coder, you basically have to become a good Googler. So of course you're allowed to use Google, and I still use it every day for my job. Like if I don't know how to do something or anything, like I just go on Google and find out, and that's totally fine. So they were like, yeah, you probably have never done this before, so just Google it. And then I found this like very crappy like Indian YouTube tutorial that kind of like explains it, you know. So in the end, it was funny because they were like, yeah, so how did you find the solution? And I was like, yeah, I just like went online and then I found this video. Like I was very honest, you know. And they were like, oh, that's great, you know. That's kind of like how it works. So that's actually very good. And in the end, I made it. So I remember the day when, or the day on the interview, I remember as well, because I was like in May and it was very warm. It was like 30 degrees outside. So I was like sweating because like we first had like the interview part and then we had the assessment. And then he said, well, we'll give you 2 hours. So 2 hours later, they would call me again. And I was doing this assessment. I remember like being like very, very nervous for it, you know? So, but yeah, it worked out. In the end, it was, I did the assessment well, and I was accepted into the company that now I've been working for I think about 2.5 years, which is a long time. Yeah, that's a pretty long time. That's like I think the longest I've ever worked for someone. I've had a few jobs before this. Like for example, I did a newspaper round. Waking up at 4 a.m. every morning, or I think even 3:30 at some point, because there weren't enough people doing that. And then I would work until like 7 a.m. I also had like a grocery shop, like all of these, like, you know, as you're young. Even in Australia, I had like a backpacker. I was a door-to-door salesman in Australia. That was a fun thing to do. It was like summer as well at the time. It was like 40 degrees. And we were like, you know, or in the morning we were like prepped up to do like your sales. We were selling like solar panels. It was a very scammy thing. It was like a very like backpacker scammy job. But still, I learned a lot from that job actually. And you would get like this cap from them and like a bit of like I think you even got like a thing to wear. And you basically had to like do your talk about like, yeah, just ask if you've already received this flyer. And then you would do like, oh, now that we're at it, I'll introduce the company, that sort of stuff. I'm basically just selling like solar panels. Receiving a lot of no's, dogs that were like barking, all this sort of stuff. Hey, Reese Powell is here. Nice to see you. Good you checked in. Yeah, it's going well. Just talking about like what's been happening. How long are we already going? Can you see that somewhere? 48 minutes already. Wow. That's really nice. We still have 13 viewers. Now we have 11 likes. Thank you. Thank you so much. The 2 people that are watching that haven't liked yet, I'm looking at you. You should press the like. It's very easy. Just scroll down a bit and press it. That's all you need to do. Anyways. Yeah. So I'm just talking about what I've been up to, basically, what I've been doing, all that sort of stuff. Currently talking about my first programming job that I got 2.5 years ago, or it was like June 2020. So it's not yet 2.5 years, like a little over 2 years, I guess. But yeah, that was nice. That was yeah. During that time, I think I couldn't have wished for anything better on a lot of levels because first of all, it provided me with pretty nice income, so I could like, you know, pay off my debt and sort of like work on that sort of stuff. Secondly, it was also a socially very nice because, you know, my family, you know, it was great to be home actually at this point because like being in quarantine, you don't really get like a whole lot of social interaction, and this job kind of provided me with that because, you know, you're working in a team. So every day we would check in with, you know, like the colleagues that I had, which is interesting because at the time I think the whole company had like maybe 50 people or so, and now that right now they have like more than 50. So like I've seen this company go from like, the small startup that they are to like pretty much, scale up that they are right now. And I've been able to help them along that way as well, and learned a lot from that as well. So yeah, that was very nice. So at the time, the development team was, I think, like maybe 5 or 6 people, and like we would have like daily stand-ups, and it's a young company as well. So you're with like, most of the time like young, uh, older than me, like 25 to like 35-year-old people. So like pretty young. Like most of the time, like just become a dad or mom. That's that sort of age group. Um, but still like to party. So we didn't really party in quarantine time, but we did have some parties after that, which was a lot of fun. So yeah, it was just like a very nice, and the boss as well. Like it was just like the atmosphere at the place was super super relaxed, super amazing, which I'm very happy with, that I had that at the time, because on the personal level, like for example, around when I just got the job is also when I like broke up with my then relationship. So, and that was like my first real relationship. So mentally, that was a bit of a tough thing to swallow. You know what I mean? So that was a bit of a tough time for me personally. So at that time, like the company really helped, like having people you could just like talk to, or just have like, they can cheer you up and that sort of stuff. And when it was possible again, like we could also go to the office, which is about an hour's drive away from me, or that's a little less, like 40 minutes. So that's still doable. Actually, sometimes I would even cycle, because at the time I didn't even have my driver's license yet. So I remember the first times that I had to go to the office, I cycled, which is like an hour and a half. I still actually do it. I did it last week, again for the first time, because I didn't have a bicycle, and now I have like a secondhand bicycle again. So it's like a road bike, like a race bike. So yeah, that's cycling is still, it's still a part of me, I guess. It's something I hope not to let go. Joe Stafford, welcome. Good that you're here. Um, so yeah, that's basically what I did, what I've been doing for over 2 years. Like I feel like time has really flown, man. Like time is going faster. Like at the time I was like 20, and now I'm already 23. Like these 2 years, I mean, there has been some other stuff that I've done, but time really flies fast. Once you have your routine, once you have your thing going on, it's it's gone just like that. Like I remember, like my birthday. I don't like to celebrate my birthday. I think for the last 3 years I haven't really celebrated my birthday. But I had my birthday, and I just had my job at the time, so we made like a nice thing at the office. And then like, I don't know, like that a year later, I think that was my first trip I did after getting this job, was the trip to Switzerland, which is a different story. We can get into it now, I guess, because basically, like as soon as I got the job, like that year, so the rest of 2020 was still pretty much a lockdown year, so there wasn't really much going on at that time. So I was basically just focused on work and paying off my debt, and saving money, basically. Um, get some more tea. Yeah, we're also gonna get into this one, which is my trip to Svalbard. But that was in 2021, so that's the year after this year. So then 2020, basically, yeah, since June, I got the job in June. I've basically been working full time. So yeah, I didn't really have much time for anything else. Then the year after that, I was still working full time. I think at this point I already wanted to go to Taiwan, because of my free time. So sorry. In my free time, from I think, yeah, around like half 2021, I was pretty much learning Chinese. Before I was mostly like coding. If I wasn't coding for my job, I was coding for myself as well, working on certain projects. But in 2021, and I think the reason why is because I was watching a lot of like maths videos from China, and I was kind of following like the whole debate that was going on, and I found that so interesting. Like I found it interesting because I had Chinese class back in high school. So through this, I kind of got like in touch with my, like Mandarin Chinese uh, learning that I've done before, but I haven't really like fully picked it up yet. And I always wanted to still do it because I knew like I have a basis. I remember in high school, I think the last 2 years I had private lessons because out of my school there was no one else that wanted to learn Chinese or that chose the subject. So I was like the only one together with my teacher. So I actually like learned, especially like the pronunciation, I learned pretty well. Like Chinese pronunciation is very different from any like, European or language like English or something like that. Like the whole system is different. But I basically got like the tones. So like Chinese has tones. And I just repeated that a lot during high school. So that was kind of like still in my head. Like I still like my vocabulary was really bad. Like I couldn't like even introduce myself properly, but I could pronounce things very well. So I was like, at some point I need to do something with this again. That was kind of like where, and then I was watching like Matt's video, and then I was actually also watching what's this guy like the enemy of Matt, or the opposer, like Serpent Sea. I was even watching him at the time. I don't watch him anymore. That's yeah, it's pretty shit what he's doing. But I was just very interesting in this. Yeah. That one. Um, I was just very interested. I didn't want to oppose my opinion because like at this time I hadn't really been on YouTube or anything like that. But I don't know. I just wanted to like my idea was like this. I wanted to go to Taiwan, or I wanted to go to like that part of Asia and sort of like see for myself what was going on. Um, that was like how I kind of got back like in Chinese language. And that was the thing. I really wanted to learn Chinese well because like I wanted to understand like the language, because that's often an excuse that Serpent ZA uses, is like you have to know the language if you want to understand the people, which I don't know how much truth that bears. But anyway, I was just like at this time like I got in touch with Mandarin Chinese again, and one of the ways I was learning Chinese was by watching Mandarin YouTube videos from actual like YouTubers that were speaking Mandarin. And at the time, because in China YouTube is blocked, so you have a few videos from China, but not a whole lot. So if you actually wanted to watch like popular YouTubers, they would often come from Taiwan, and they would be using like the Chinese subtitles that I could kind of read. I mean, it's traditional Chinese, so it's like on a different level from simplified Chinese. There are probably like other places to get like actual like simplified Chinese videos. For example, on Netflix, if you put your profile on Chinese, that's like simplified Chinese as well. So yeah, I was just like in my free time, I was basically learning Chinese again, and I was pretty like serious about it. Like I would watch a video, and I was like, I want to understand this video. So if there was any character I did not know, I would like make I would like make a photo of it, or I would try to like write it over on Google Translate, and then I would write down like I have like no, it's not this one, but I had like how do you call this, like notebooks like this, and I would like write them full of Chinese characters, and then their pronunciation like pinyin below it, because that's the thing about Chinese. You can read it, but then you still don't know how to pronounce it. There are clues in there. Like for example, if you have like a Chinese character is always made up of building blocks, right? So if there's, for example, one building block that most of the time gives the character a certain sound, it can have that sound. So if I was like typing, which like if you're typing, I'm just using like a Western keyboard, that you would type like how it would sound. So for example, if your character was like na, then you would type like NA, and then you would get like a bunch of characters to choose from. And then like if you would just look for like which character is there, and then like there's like an algorithm behind it, so it gets like pretty smart. So at some point, if you were like typing like ni hao, like hello, ni hao, then it would like you would type in like ni hao, and then it would already show the right characters, because that's like if your pronunciation, or if you're wanting to say ni hao, then most of the time it's those two characters, So actually, like, one character is one syllable. But sometimes this will be totally off. So sometimes you have like this building block, you think it's pronounced this way, but it's pronounced a totally different way. So so it was pretty difficult to like learn new words at this time, because there were also characters, this is interesting, there were also characters that looked exactly the same, but in a different context are pronounced differently, or like anything, and that sort of stuff. Yeah, Seal knows about it, because like I told him, like, at the time, how I was learning the language, and yeah, I did that for I think like 10 months before I went, or actually could go to Taiwan. So at that time, like, my reading skill of Chinese was really good. I taught myself the traditional characters, so like my traditional character level was like as high as my simplified character level. So like I could understand things very well. My listening was like pretty good, I would say. But most of the time I was watching videos with the subtitles, so I could like read it. So my reading was really good. My writing was also at some point really good, because like I knew how to write these characters. The only thing I was still lacking was speaking. And that's why like I found out these like language exchange applications that I could kind of like chat with Taiwanese people. It's actually very nice, because then you're being linked to people that want to learn your native language. So like I would fill in, I am a native Dutch speaker. My English proficiency is pretty good, I guess. And I wanted to learn Mandarin Chinese. And then you would be linked to people that want to do the opposite. So I would be linked to Mandarin Chinese speakers that wanted to learn Dutch. So it's very interesting. You get like conversations that are like part Chinese, part Dutch, and then you would just resort to English because it's too hard to explain otherwise. But yeah, that was like actually a very fun thing to do. I haven't opened that app for a long time. But yeah, basically I learned a lot of like writing through that as well. Or not writing, just typing, like how to express yourself, that sort of stuff. But the only thing, yeah, exchange, that was a really great thing to do, and it was a nice way to make some friends as well. So basically, at that point, the only thing that I was still missing was actually going to a Chinese-speaking place and environment. So at this point, I think this was already like in May 2021. Where I wanted to go to Taiwan. Now, Taiwan has a working holiday visa, which means like it's kind of like the same as Australia. You can go there for a year. You can work there if you want. But basically, you don't necessarily have to work there. And at this point, I had already been working for the company I'd been working for was already like almost a year. So, and I've been telling this company that I work for already, like, hey, when it's possible again, I want to travel again. So there was always this possibility of going remote again, which was really nice. So I had been telling them about my plans. Like, I'm always like pretty honest with people, so I was always like, hey, I want to do this, I want to go here, that sort of stuff, and it was very nice, because like this company is also trying to become more international, so having someone in a different area would maybe help them in doing some market research or something like that, so they were all also like thinking in possibilities. 你的中文真的很棒哎。对啊。I can do you want me to speak a bit Chinese? Oh, I mean, I don't know. People don't ask me, so I'm always kind of like. Actually, it's funny. Like in Taiwan, I always say like my Chinese is not very good, but yeah, it's high how, I guess. No, I guess it's on a proficiency level. It's not as good as my English for sure. But Chinese is also a very different language. Like it's just a lot more complex. Like there's a lot of different words for what in English you only have one word for. Like for example, a crack in the wall. So in English, there's like if it's a big crack, it's a big crack. If it's a small crack, it's a small crack, right? But in Chinese, or at least in Taiwan, you have like what was it again? Like Lie Feng and Lie Hang or something like that. Like you have like different words for like a different grade of crack, which sounds weird. Sorry, I don't know if that's the only example I could really think of that I always tell people, but it's a bit of a weird one. But anyway, oh, my brother is asking me if I want lunch in 10 minutes. I think I would like to finish the live stream first, which might still be a while. So I don't know. He's got some like bread to put in the oven. I don't know if you can wait a bit longer. Otherwise, just put it in the oven and then I'll eat it later. It's okay. Or leave the oven on and then I'll put it in later. If you can do that, that'll be great. Thanks. Jayo. Yeah, that's the rest is Japanese. I cannot really read that. Sorry, so. Ni hao. Yeah, that's still actually that's funny because like Chinese people like ni hao is a very formal hello. Like you wouldn't really say that in an everyday situation, which is like hello or yeah, I think hello is what they would say a lot. I already forget. Gambate. Okay, yeah, exactly, yeah. So anyway, finally, I was basically already like I've already been planning to go to Taiwan from that time. Could bring my work to Taiwan as well, which is great. The only thing is like time zone difference, so that was something to mitigate. But as a developer, you work a lot on your own. Like you have your own project assigned to you, and on paper you should work 8 hours or you should work like 9 to 5. But in reality, like as long as you finish the project, you're fine. So it's a very like flexible thing, and I'm very happy with that actually. So it was very like just fill it in like kind of like how you want it. As long as you work to your how do you say like you work like we agreed, like you're supposed to work like 8 hours. And if I'm back home, I do work like I check in at 9 a.m. and then I check out at 5. Like in the middle you go for lunch. Sometimes you have meetings. It's pretty fluid. But like once you're in a different time zone, it gets a bit harder to like have certain meetings and that sort of stuff. Anyway, but for us, it's pretty flexible. It's a pretty flexible job, and basically, the longer I worked there, the more like freedoms I could kind of have, because like certain things that would take new colleagues 1 hour, I could do in 10 minutes. So that's also like a certain like value that you kind of like add at that point, just because you have more experience. So in the beginning, like it was actually like the foresight that even after like 3 months of working there, we all still thought that Corona would be wiped out in like 2 months from now. So I was like, yeah, maybe in 2 or 3 months I want to travel again, because I don't know how long I can hold it out in this place, in this Dutch village. So that was kind of like my agreement with them. Like, okay, like, remote work is possible, all that sort of stuff. Like they actually already had like some developers that were working remotely. So, things were possible. But at that time I had been like working already like for almost a year on location, or not really on location. Like even back home, like we would work remote 3 days out of the week. So like 2 days we would go to the office, often on your team day. So you can see like your team members, like for example, every Monday was developer day. So then we would go to the office as developers. There's another funny thing is they have hotfix. They call it hotfix fries day. So every Friday, if you're at the office, then you eat fries together and you fix bugs, or like hotfix, like bug fixing. So funny stuff like that. And then like at the office they also had like a Nintendo Switch, so we'll play like Mario Kart. And yeah, it's some people, if I talk about my work, like a lot of people like envy me. It's like, oh, I do a lot of fun stuff out there. Yeah, it's just a fun place. It's even better now because since Corona and since all of the gyms were closed, they kind of built their own little gym in the back. And when the gyms were open again, they weren't really making use of that gym anymore. So my boss was like, okay, let's hire a personal trainer that would come every Tuesday and Thursday and would kind of like teach a small group of colleagues to like do some like exercises. He was like a CrossFit trainer. So every Tuesday and Thursday, like after work, there will be like a CrossFit training included in your like in your workday. So that was like that was actually really very great, and that's like how many companies offer that. So that's the thing. Good Chinese. No, I'm not speaking Chinese here. Maybe later. I don't know. If you have any Chinese you're writing in the comments, I'll pronounce it, and then I might answer in Chinese as well if you want to. Yeah, that's Shana. That's my girlfriend. That's watching me. She's currently on a trip in Taiwan to Kenting, which is in the south. So I think she's having a lot of fun with her friends. Yeah, also that happened. I found another girlfriend in Taiwan, so it's a lot of fun. Anyway, where are we? We are in 2021 when I was trying to go to Taiwan. I was learning the language. I was like, yeah, I wanna go here. I even like picked up a bit of like Taiwanese, which is like it's different from Chinese. It's how do you compare it? It's kind of like a dialect, but it's actually like a completely different language that's like native Taiwanese people use. Like it's also one thing I learned about Taiwan when I really started to dive into it. Man, this country there's a lot going on there. Like you have like Chinese people, you have Taiwanese people, you have Aboriginal people. So like if you go like a bit into the mountains, you have like native people there, like sort of like in Australia, but I think they are related to the people that live in like the Pacific Islands, like how would you call them, like Polynesia, like that sort of stuff, and they actually all originated from Taiwan. So like those island people have their roots in like the Taiwan before there were any Chinese people there. So this country has like a very rich history and a very rich culture. So it's pretty crazy. Yeah, the oysters in Kenting. Yeah, exactly. I didn't eat them in Kenting. So stupid. I was there as well. Like my first 2 weeks that I was in Taiwan. Um, those big oysters. I did eat oysters in Green Island. I think I was in Green Island as well. And I did eat quite a lot of seafood over there, which was I mean, food in Taiwan is a different thing. it's it's unlike any other place, really. It's really amazing. Anyways, I did a few trips while I was waiting for Taiwan to open up. I did a road trip because I just got my license as well in 2020, I think, or 2021. I forget. No, I must have gotten it in 2020 because I got it in October, and then I did my first ever like road trip in the summertime the year after. So I think October 2020 I got my driver's license. So I've been driving for 2 years now, which is not bad. So then I did my first ever road trip. I did a road trip so I started here and then I went through Belgium, spend the night in like the Belgian mountains and like the eastern side of the country. Then it was also like my birthday, 2021. Then I drove on to, I forget, I think Dijon in France, which is famous for like their very sharp mustard. Been actually twice to this place as well. Like later, I came back like a year later. I came back to that place just to get mustard again. Yes, I went to Sun Moon Lake as well. Yep, definitely. I cycled around Sun Moon Lake. I cycled like I went like a bike tour around it. I have a lot of video from that. Anyway, so that was the road trip. Then to Switzerland, Geneva, and then I spent 4 days in the Swiss Alps in a place called Grindelwald. Recommend this place. Like this was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. I slept in a how do you call it? A caravan. But I didn't bring the caravan. Like the caravan was like there on the side of a mountain. Did you sell the trekking period? No, it's still there. It's still there. I'll talk about it when I talk about like future plans because that's part of my future plan. Anyway, so yeah, Grindelwald is an amazing place. So like this caravan on the side of like this mountain, you had, like a great view of like the valley below where you had like the small village, and then like the backdrop were like these huge mountains and like this glacier that was like kind of on top of it. It was just spectacular trip. I I rented an electric mountain bike there, which was really awesome because like I actually felt a bit guilty because of it, because like I was going up the mountain and going on this like bike ride, and then like I would pass by all of these like sweaty mountain bikers that didn't have like electric assist. So I was like, I kept saying to them like, I'm cheating, I'm sorry, I'm cheating, you know. But yeah, that was an amazing ride as well. That was like first like going up the mountain, so like you start in like a forested area, and then some like the how do you call them, like the normal trees or the birch trees, they kind of like change into pine trees, and then at some point like even the pine trees kind of disappear and you only have like grass and rocks and that sort of stuff. And then all the way at the top there was even like a bit of ice that was still like on the sides of the road and that sort of stuff. And then doing like the amazing downhill down this like it was a bit of a, like a hairy road, because like well, yeah, well, I think the hairiest part was like already in a forest, but even if you were to fall like on the side of the cliff, you would definitely break a leg or two. Um, so I really learned how to like kind of, how do you say, like balance myself when you're going like on such a steep grade like downhill. Did I make video of that? I think I did. I think I had my GoPro on my chest, like I have like a GoPro chest mount. Um, and I don't know if I did droning then. By the way, my drone is in a palm tree in Taiwan. We'll get to that story. my DJI Spark that I've already had since the first ever bike tour. But yeah, no, I think during this trip I wasn't really filming a whole lot. I just had my phone with me, which I think is almost empty. I'll just close my phone for a while. Um, how long are we going, by the way? 1 hour 16 minutes. Anyway, I'll just keep going. I don't care. So that was like the Switzerland trip, or that ride. Like I made a few. Like I think I brought my Canon. Yeah, I think I brought like my old Canon G7X Mark One that I got like secondhand before my first ever bike trip. So this camera was also like pretty much had it, like it's, I think at some point it didn't even open anymore, or the video mode wouldn't work. There was something, or I think the record button wouldn't work anymore. So I wasn't really focused on video at the time, because also I had just been like working full time for pretty much a year at that point. So I just wanted to do like a trip to relax and kind of to also base myself again, because like before I had this job, I never thought really that I would live like that, like a very, on the surface, like very normal life, like having your average job, being your average Joe, or how we say it in Dutch, Jan Modal, which is like the average person having like an average income, um, living an average life. I never really been like that, and being like that for such a long time. Also, a little bit of the added stress, because like not only my job, but also on the side, I was still doing a few of the coding things, which mentally does take a bit of its toll. Because you kind of, when you're coding, you have to keep a lot in your head. Like you're working on one thing, and then you kind of have to like think about the system. So like I remember like during the end of the day, my brain was just fried, because like you're working with all of these systems. And at the time I was actually developing my own application called Map My Tours. Map My Tours app. I'm just gonna throw it in the chat. Shameless plug here. But I've been working on this project at the time, which is like your own map builder. So if you have seen like my personal website or Jayo's website as well, jayo.com/, I think, map. It's like a map builder. So like it's like an application with which you can make your own like personal Google Maps. Like, how do you call it? It's like, for example, if you've done like a bike tour and you want to like share it in a unique way. So you kind of want to share it on a map, like, and they instantly see where you've been and like the route you've taken and that sort of stuff. That's what this application allows you to do. You can actually sign up for it right now. It's open. It's free. I haven't implemented any payment or anything like that. I don't really want to do that until like I have a few users that use it on a regular basis. But yeah, if you're interested in it, you can check it out. You can also, I think the main website has like a few examples of what it looks like, for example, on my website. It's very easy to use. You can just like make your own like map markers, or you can use the map markers that are in there, add your own little color to it, and then like drop it on like this map. It's very intuitive. Like I really wanted to make this like very intuitive for people that don't really know how to code. And I think one of the very like things I'm very proud of in this app is that you can link your Strava account. So if you, for example, want to post like the exact route that you've ridden on a certain day, or like you want to link like multiple days together, you can actually add your route to the map. So you can just have like this drop down of like your routes that are on your Strava account. And once you click like add, it will actually display like the line on the map. And then you can color the line how you want it. So you can make like, I don't know, blue color, you can make it fat, you can make it transparent, you can make it very small. Like there's a lot of customizability. And the cool thing about this is, Matt, what I've implemented is not even it. Like there is a lot more you can do with it. You can like make the map itself custom. So you can like have like a different color for the background, or for like the water, or for like the roads. You can like remove, for example, town names if you want it. Like there's a lot of things you can do with it. That's I think I still have like some how do you call it, like project board with like ideas that I just jotted down there. Like what about like map custom colors, or that sort of stuff. But there's really a lot possible, and I haven't really seen this in any other like map building applications. Yeah, exactly. You should post it on some travel blog forums. I mean, this is exactly the thing, because at the time I developed this app and I was basically ready for launch. I was at the marketing step when I didn't do anything anymore. I was like, right now we're gonna publish it, all that sort of stuff. And then I was basically learning Chinese full time. So so yeah, I don't know why. I think it was more of like I wanted to yeah, I'm just talking for like an hour. I can keep going. Uh, Frank, if you think it's boring, then just do something else. It's okay. It's yeah, just whatever you want to do. Frank is my cousin, by the way, so I know him. This might be a bit boring for him, maybe, but yeah. So I was basically at the marketing stage. I have like even some ideas on how to market, like indeed like travel blog forums, or I was even thinking of, for example, reaching out to some like YouTubers and then like offering to make like a map for them. Oh, thanks. That's very nice. And then like putting it on their website, like because there's a bit of like coding involved, or actually there's no coding involved at all. But you can put this map on your own website as well. So you can share the map standalone. So you can like share the map page, and then like, for example, on Facebook, and then we'll go to the map. But you can also put it on your own website. So then there's a little bit of coding involved, because it's like a code, but it's just copy paste. It's very easy. So yeah, do check it out if you want to take a look. So yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the best map building tools out there. Like I did a bit of market research on some of these other like map builders, but it's been so long, man. Like I took a look at the time, and I had a few emails saying like my website has like the text is too small, so it wouldn't rank well on Google, that sort of stuff. So I just need to take a look at that again and just promote it. But then in my head, I'm like, yeah, but then I also kind of like have to go back to YouTube and do a bit more of YouTube. So that's where we're currently at. Also, like I was gonna do a lot of this when I went to Taiwan. Like before that, I was basically learning Chinese full time and working full time as well. When I was going to Taiwan, let's continue where the story left off. When I went to Taiwan, I agreed with my boss to work part-time. So I was still going to work part-time for this company, which is like 4 hours a day. And then I would do this study, because I was going on a student visa. So I had to do a Chinese study. Or I didn't necessarily have to do it. You can also like kind of sneak into the country, signing up for a study and then canceling right away. But I felt a bit, it wasn't really like how I wanted to do it. And plus, this might be a great opportunity to like meet new people and learn the language very well. So I was actually at someone like I was really excited to do this. 辛苦的 app 厉害哦，谢谢 CLC，谢谢。Yeah. It's nice. It's a nice app. He says like nice app, very very cool, something like that. I'll open the door one sec. Okay, hold on. Oh, thanks. Yeah, but I'm talking, so I'm probably not gonna eat. My brother just gave me some bread with bacon on it. Nice. Yeah, I still did the translation exactly. That's right. So yeah, and so I did this trip. Let's rewind a little bit back to Switzerland. I did the Switzerland trip, and then in November I did another trip. Now, this trip is a bit, I would say, underrated because like at the time I was in my head already in Taiwan, so to say. Like I just was already going to Taiwan, but it still wasn't happening. So I remember, so I was like applying for the Taiwan trip in May 2021, so even before the Switzerland trip. And that's when Corona broke out there, or it was like a Corona outbreak, and they pretty much closed down the working holiday visa. So then I waited again, and then I think towards like the maybe like September, so like after the Switzerland thing, I changed my mind to go for the student thing. So then I registered for the study and that sort of stuff. But that was still a real hassle because even like I already contacted the university. There was a lot of emails going back and forth about like, logistics and all that sort of stuff because I had to go in quarantine and all of this sort of stuff. So, but it wasn't even possible to go yet because I didn't have a scholarship. So the student visa was eligible to apply again. I was looking at like the Taiwan government website, and that sort of stuff. And they said like the student visa is eligible again to apply for, but you need a scholarship. Like you can only enter on like the Taiwan Certified Scholarship Program, whatever. And then I think at some point they had like another statement saying that also other scholarship students or other students, I don't know. I thought I was able to go again. Or no, I think it was the university that sent me an email that like from this moment on you're able to go again or something like I don't remember. But I thought that in December or November of 2021 I was able to go again. So I got everything ready, and I think in October or something like that, like I sent another word out, and it turned out that wasn't the case. I had to wait again because of the scholarship thing. Like the rule was weird. I basically couldn't apply for it. Or I think, was it a scholarship thing? Or was it like maybe like only if you're on like a bachelor program you could go to Taiwan or something like that? I was just gonna do like a Chinese study. I wasn't gonna do like a bachelor. Like I basically wasn't gonna do like a study for 4 years. I just I saw this study, which is like a 3-month course, or it works like per 3 months. That's like one semester. That's what I wanted to do, and that was one of the ways to go to Taiwan. But that just had like slightly different regulations, so that wasn't possible, unfortunately. So yeah, that was another bit of a bit of a pity. I was really done with being at home again, and I still had some days off. So I wanted to do something unique with them. So I remember at the time I was just looking for like what's an easy place to travel to that you don't need any like COVID testing or like vaccination, like anything that wasn't like a hassle or like quarantine, to go to. Now it turns out at the time, Norway was very, and I wanted to go somewhere that was a bit extreme. Like I didn't want to go to Germany, or something like that. Like I didn't want to go somewhere that was like next door. I wanted to go like on a pretty extreme trip. And then I don't know how, like I was watching some videos, and then I found this place called Svalbard, which is like in northern it's not even part of, well, it's part of Norway, but it's not on the Norway mainland. It's like to the north, quite a ways. Like from northern Norway, it's like another hour and a half by plane to go here. And I was like, okay, is it easy? Can you go here even? Because like I heard that you can only go to this place if you actually have like a job there or anything like that. But apparently no. there was nothing needed. Like I think you did need like your Corona, like they had this like QR code at the time, but that was it. You didn't need to go in quarantine or anything like that. So, and the plane ticket was pretty cheap. It was a little pricey, but it wasn't actually that bad. Like I think going to Spain or anything like that was as expensive. So I was like, let's go. Let's go to this place. Like an extreme trip. I mean, it was pretty extreme because it was winter. So I think I went in like November, which over there you have no sunlight. It's so far north that you have like the polar night, meaning there would be like 12 p.m. It's dark. There is a bit of light in the sky, like you can kind of see like a bit of a dawn situation coming up, but it's not like the street lights still had to be lit during that time, even at 12 p.m. The weather forecast was like minus 20 degrees, and I was like, fuck it. Let's just get my winter gear and let's just check it out. And honestly, guys, this was one of the best trips I've ever done. I was there. I even booked like a one-way ticket. I was like, I don't know how long I'm going to be able to hold it out. I don't care. I've got like, I think I had like 3 weeks off from work, and I just went. I brought my camera, the camera I'm using right now. I bought a new camera, especially for this occasion, which is the Sony A6500. I'm using it as well right now, together with the Rode Video Mic Go. I think is the microphone. There's like a huge like dead cat on top of the camera. I actually have another like microphone that I could have put like here, but I don't know. I didn't really have the cable to put that to the laptop, so I'm using this. But I think the audio is pretty good. So yeah, I bought it secondhand. I didn't really want to spend too much money because hey, what if I didn't really like making the videos again? And I was kind of like, so I wouldn't want to spend too much. I mean, the A6500 is a bit pricey already. So I bought the body, and then I think I bought a lens separately, like the kit lens, and then this Video Mic Go as well. And then I also had this. I had this one already. This is the SwitchPod. This is actually a new one. The old one broke. Like this thing like fell out, so that's like broke. But yeah, this is the SwitchPod. Or I think the screw broke. So like the screw was broken, and then this head was also broken because the screw was like stuck in it. So that was a bit sad, but it's a nice thing because like you can kind of hold your camera like this, right? So like there's this like handle, so you can do like that, and if you want to like place it, this might be very nice for you as well. You can just do it like that. So there's like almost in one swing. Yeah, if there's a camera on, it's a bit easier, but like in one swing, you can like place it down. So like walk by shots or everything like that are done like within seconds because you can just like you can hold it like that, and then you just do like boom, like that. The only I think downside if you're cycling is like where to put it, because I mean together with the camera as well, it's a bit hard to like put it on your steering wheel or in one of your panniers or anything like that. When I was cycling in Taiwan, I actually strapped it to the back. So I had like my backpack on top of the rack, and then there was this like bungee cord going across it, and I would like jam this in between there, and it would kind of like stay there. But I mean, if it was raining, then that was worthless as well. So, but so yeah, I bought this, or I think I already had it, but I didn't have like a proper camera, so I bought a new proper camera, and I was ready to go. And I did quite some vlogging. I definitely vlogged the expeditions I went on because you cannot leave so like in Seoul there's one town, the town called Longyearbyen. I have this mug from there. It's this top name, Longyearbyen, and there's one town there. I think it has like 2,000 permanent residents. Because I mean, who wants to live there? Even though like I loved it there. Like I think I could actually live there for like, well not for my life, but for like a couple months. I think I could live there. And you cannot leave the town without a gun. Like that's actually forbidden because there are polar bears roaming around. especially during the winter months, I've been told they like to go to, or they don't like to go to the village itself, but they roam around the whole island. While in the summer, they kind of all move up north, where like the sea ice is. But yeah, you cannot leave the town without a gun. And I booked a hostel there. There's this really, really nice hostel, like great people I met there. Yes, there are travelers going here. I did not think that as well, especially at that time of the year. Like, how is that possible? But I actually met like another, like an American dude that was in the military. So like I had a really good time there. Like it started off a bit like I was a bit afraid because like I remember the hostel is a little bit outside of like the center of the town. So there was just like one stretch of road where the road was lit, but there was no like houses on the side. So I think for the first couple of times going to like the center of the town, I would always get a taxi because I was scared that a polar bear would attack me on that road. But apparently this is it's like a 20-minute walk from the hostel to the center. But at some point, like you kind of let go of that, and you just walk there. But they said that like actually this walk to the center is pretty safe. Like there's no polar bears ever recorded there. And it's like the hostel is a little bit like in the valley, and the polar bears often are on the water side. So there is less of a chance of polar bears being there. But yeah, I arrived at 3 p.m. It was dark. There was no light. It was completely dark, like just like nighttime. You know what I mean? And then the next day it was like the first full day there, and then I would see like that little bit of light at like 12 p.m. It's very weird because the town is also on the south, so the sun is coming from the back, but that's where like the high mountains are. So they also only get like their sunshine pretty late in the year, because like the sun would shine like over them. You know what I mean? Like over the valley. So like a lot of the year they're just like in permanent darkness, which is insane. Like it was so crazy. It was so weird. So yeah, if you wanted to go out of the town and like actually explore the area, you would have to book a guided tour, which were a bit pricey. Like most of the time they were like over 100 US per day. And they would often be day tours. You can also do multi-day tours. So I want to go back there and do like a multi-day, like I don't know, like snowmobile or dog sled tour. At the time, it wasn't snow. It was snowing, but there wasn't enough snow for the snowmobile, so I never did that. I really wanted to do it, but I never got to do that. But I did go on like a dog sled tour. Yeah, that was like honestly one of the best experiences ever, because like not only like there were this like expeditions which were really cool. Like I even went into like a glacier, where there was like an ice cave. So like there was like an hour hike out of the town into like up on the mountain, and then at some point you had this like very like flat sheet, and then they were like, right now we're on the glacier. But the thing is, it's dark, so you kind of see the contours of like the mountains, but you cannot really see them. So that was like my first time, I think, actually seeing a glacier. I have seen them in Switzerland, but only from far away, so I never really went up close. So this was like my first time being on a glacier, but I couldn't see it. And I remember it was like snowing at the time. It was like a snowstorm going on. It was just, there's still photos on my Instagram from this time. Like you can see like the blizzard and that sort of stuff. It was so cool. And it really sucks because that's the next video after the last video, which I think is me strolling through the town of Longyearbyen. So that was like my first expedition. Then the next one was a bike ride. I did a bike ride there with like these tires that have like these spikes on them. You know what I mean? I did that. That was also really cool. It was like with a very nice guide as well. That was like at this like outdoor place. And then we went on these mountain bikes. I think they were electric. I don't remember if they were. But it was really like, it was very windy. I think it was also like one of the last tours of the season, because like the roads were still kind of like snow free in November. So yeah, we cycled like through the main parts of like I think it was like a harbor there, and then we cycled up like this little hill, and then you could see like the old like mining, because like the reason the place is there is because of mining. I think like coal mines or anything like that. There's still one mine in active use, I think, or at the time there was, but they were like planning to close it or something, like I don't know. But so there was like a heavy mining industry, and the very interesting thing was that the mining like equipment, or like the mining buildings and statues, were all like wood, but because it's so cold there, the wood doesn't rot. So like there would still be like, these very old like mine shafts or like mine entrances that in normal situations would like rot away because it's all wood, but they would still be there because it's ice. It's always icy there. So like certain like very old buildings would still be able to persist. I mean, recently it's been going like it's been getting warmer. It's been getting more wet. The permafrost is thawing, so it's there is a bit of things going on here. But if you get the chance, I mean, it's a crazy place, and it not just because of the extreme temperatures, but just because of the darkness. Because when I arrived there, everything felt really dark, but your eyes kind of get used to it, and it's different than your eyes getting used to the dark at night. It's your eyes like over time just getting used to it being so dark, and then you suddenly see a lot more light. Like it's a really like strange experience, because like in the beginning I really thought everything was really dark, but during the time when I was there was also like full moon. So during the day there would be like a moon shining, and at some point that just felt like the sun. Like it felt like it was just like light. It was bright outside. You could see the mountains and everything like that. So yeah, that was really like I actually really want to go back there. The funny thing is there was also like a bit of a social aspect there. I met some people at the hostel, hung out with them for a little bit. They even invited me for like a sauna experience. So there is this like Svalbard sauna experience where there is this like it's in the harbor. So they have this like it's not a boat, but it's like on the water, like this place where inside they have the sauna, and then outside you can just like jump in the freezing seawater. So I met some guys that like rented out this sauna for like an hour, and then he said like, yeah, you're invited. You can all come and hang out with us. So I think in total it was like six guys that were hanging out together in this sauna, which was just like so much fun. And then indeed, like after it was so funny because like there was this very, I don't know, like a bit of like a grumpy Norwegian dude there that was kind of like introducing us to the place. And he was like, yeah, like very, very like sober, like, yeah, there's this big hook, and if someone gets like cramps in the seawater, then you just like get him out with the hook. It's like shit. And then one of the guys like asked him like, did anyone die during this? And they were like, no, not yet. So yeah. I don't think I made like some videos from that. I think I didn't made like a small like iPhone video, but that was just like me enjoying my time with people that I just met. So but yeah, so cool. Like that like I didn't expect that to happen. And then afterwards we went out. So there's like a couple bars there, and we ended up in this like hotel which had like a 60s and 70s night. So there were like people dancing and that sort of stuff. It's actually because they all say, the local people say, that they actually prefer the dark season, because that's when things are like nice and cozy, and there's not that much tourism. So you actually really felt like a bigger community feel than when in summer, when like a lot of tourists come, and when it's always light. They actually prefer always dark over always light. And I said it's because like at night your brain doesn't shut off because it's light outside, so your brain thinks it's day. So it like it's 2 a.m. but it's like this. You just want to go out and do stuff. So at some point you just burn out. You know what I mean? Like your brain just burns out. It cannot make sense anymore. Like the darkness had its own complications, because like if I was going on like an expedition, that would often like end at around like 3 p.m. And then you would be dropped back off at your hostel or anywhere where you wanted to be dropped off, basically. So sometimes I would like, well, I would mostly go to the hostel, grab my laptop, and then go to the center to sit at like the library or something like that, or like a cafe. but because it's dark, like it's already like pitch black outside, so your body thinks it's nighttime. Well, it's only like 4 p.m. or 3 p.m. So your body like already starts to like shut down. You feel like you're in a jet lag because you like. I remember like I was sitting like with this coffee and I was like fighting to sleep. And I was like I should not sleep now because like if I sleep now, then you wake up at 3 a.m. and your whole rhythm is fucked. So yeah, that was pretty crazy. So yeah, like I posted 2 videos of that time, and more videos are in the pipeline. After this Svalbard experience, I didn't immediately fly back home. I first flew to northern Norway, which is beautiful in its own right. A place called Tromsø. I spent a night there, and I explored the city, and I also made some videos there. So that's like also, and then I also went on a night train from this place to Stockholm, which is like in Sweden. Um, and I noticed like once I like Svalbard was really like starting up with the videos, like timeline wise, it wasn't so great. Like I remember the last video of Svalbard, like the timeline is very different than how it actually happened. Like I think I first filmed the museum, but I went to the museum like last. I don't know. That was just like really like figuring out how I was going to be able to make videos again. But I really felt like when I went to northern Norway and when I traveled around there, like my video rhythm was starting to come back. Really, like I really started to get back in the groove again. And I actually was also already editing the first video at the time. So I think the first or the second video I already posted when I was already like on that trip. So spirit was high. I was feeling great. I was meeting people again. I was traveling. I thought TravelingTice is back, and then I arrived back home, and then I collapsed basically. Like I posted 2 videos, and then I wanted to edit the third one, but I was back in like my work routine, and like a place can really in like how do you call it? Like, do you ever notice that, for example, if you're traveling? Wait a sec. Like if you're traveling to a new location, you also see that your routine is really different. Like your okay, Matt. Nice to see you too. Have a good day, and yeah, let's talk soon. Um, so I was where was I? Oh yeah, the routine thingy. So like you notice that if you're traveling or if you're just like living in a different place, your routine is kind of different. Like you're eating differently, uh, even your like thinking is different, and that's why travel is such an amazing thing because it makes you do things very differently. Like even your perception of time changes. Um, but it's so interesting that as soon as you're back in your old routine, it can take a matter of days before you're right back in it, right before you left. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was back here. Okay, I want to do a quick check on the live stream for now. Okay, we have 16 viewers, 15 likes. 16 likes! There you go. Awesome. Very cool. Almost going for 2 hours. That's very nice. Oh, there's this bread in the view. Okay, I'll take a bite. So that I'm getting a bit hungry. By the way, guys, if you have any questions, post them because I would love to answer them. See, that's the problem. You cannot really eat and live stream at the same time. Anyways, so yeah, this was an amazing trip. I actually wanted to go from extreme to extreme. So like I was in extreme cold. Okay, see you soon. Enjoy your shower. I was going from like extreme cold, Svalbard, minus 20 degrees, freezing temperatures. Like there was this time like we were staying outside and it was like clear sky. Oh yeah, and of course I saw the Northern Lights there. That like was one of the bucket list items I wanted to see. And it was actually I think one of the last days that I got to see it, which was really amazing. But like I was going from like minus 20 degrees. I was like standing in the air and like you think you have like how do you say that properly? Like you have like boogers in your nose. but it's actually your nose hairs freezing up. I've never really experienced that before, but that's like what happens when it's like lower than like -20 outside. And then I wanted to have like a very like summer experience, and the easiest place to kind of go to from my location to have like a summer experience was the Canary Islands. So right after, like I think I spent like maybe a day and a half at home. I went to Gran Canaria, which is like one of the main or most popular islands. I think you also have like Tenerife there, I think. But I chose Gran Canaria, Las Palmas, which is like also like a bit of a digital nomad hub. And I spent, I think, another week or week and a half there. It was also really nice. Very different experience than up there. I remember talking to a few people that were living there, and they were like, "I would never want to spend a day in Svalbard. It's too cold for me." But honestly speaking, it was actually like a lot more fun than Gran Canaria. But that was more of like a. I actually also worked a week remote from there, so I think I spent over a week or a week and a half in Gran Canaria as well. So I think in total I was traveling for like 4 weeks, including 1 week remote working from here. So I said that like this like co-working space, and I was kind of like in that co-working vibe and that sort of stuff. But in my head, I was still thinking about Taiwan. Like I wanted to go to Taiwan. I'm just doing this because I have like time off and I can take some days off. One good thing about Gran Canaria is that it's a lot cheaper than Svalbard. Like Norway is one of the most expensive countries ever, and Svalbard is actually a little bit cheaper because they have different tax laws than Norway itself. So I actually thought it was going to be a lot more expensive, but it was actually not that bad. Um, like things like alcohol are a little bit cheaper than in Norway proper, actually, which is pretty interesting. But so that was also very nice. Like I had a bit of like sunshine. It was actually the weather was only on the day that I arrived. It was like very sunny and you could go to the beach and that sort of stuff. But for the rest, it was a bit hazy, so it wasn't actually that nice. But that was also a very very nice experience, and just a bit of a summer vacation. But I don't know. It was just like different. Like, I went out there as well. Like I did a bit of like I even went to like a was it kind of like a club or like a bar where they were like dancing salsa, and then I like kind of fell in love with salsa. So I was like, I want to learn salsa now and go in like salsa class. Um, but then it was then I came back from that trip, and then the Taiwan trip was actually happening. So I think it was like around January or something like that, where Taiwan published that they were going to open up the borders again to students that did not have a scholarship, including me. I think my university even sent me a message that was possible again. Um, so the trip was on. Like it was actually going to happen. Like what I've been waiting for like over a year at that point was actually going to happen. And I want to do a quick break. I need to go to the toilet. So I want to go to the toilet, and then we'll leave off where we are right now, which is Taiwan. So that's very good. I think we've been going for like 2 hours at this point. Nice. Some people are leaving now that I'm saying it. Don't leave. I'm actually going to open the window a bit because I see that the window is a bit. There you go. That's a bit better, I think. Anyway, be right back. Be right back. There we are. I don't know if you hear me talk with my brother. My brother say he heard me. So, is this something annoying now? Wait a sec. Is it better? Okay, I think that'll work out. Cool. All right, viewers are coming back. Nice. Cool. All right, almost 2 hours, and we still haven't even touched on the Taiwan part. Let me just get some water here. Anyway, all right, that's better. So, where were we? I don't like that light, but the problem is that like it's like cloudy and then sunny again, and then cloudy and then sunny again. So it's really annoying. But I want to make it a bit higher. Anyway, I think it's all right. Yeah, this is all right. All right, let me see here. Cool. Okay, so Taiwan then. So the Taiwan trip is gonna happen. Okay, wait. I think I should have taken a bit of a longer break. Well, the thing is, I didn't even know I was going to be talking for like 2 hours straight. It's almost 2:30 at this point. But I don't really have any other plans for today, so I think it's all right. Anyway, yeah, Taiwan was finally happening. I was very happy with that. Like I was basically dying to go for like a year at this point. And it was finally happening. So I packed up my stuff again. Luckily, I already had I bought like a new suitcase because my suitcase broke in Svalbard. Oh, that was funny. When I arrived there, my suitcase broke. So like I was, and it broke during the flight. I think during the first flight it was already like a bit cracked, but during the second flight, because like I couldn't fly directly to Svalbard, I had to go like on a layover in Tromsø. Like it broke. Like the whole thing was basically broken. So I was standing there in like the center of this town. Apparently, like the bus shuttle takes you to your hotel. I didn't know it, so I just said to the bus driver, like, just drop me off in the center of town. So I was standing there with a broken suitcase in the snow, in the dark at 3 p.m. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. Anyway, so yeah, that's I bought a new suitcase as well. I didn't buy it in Svalbard because it's like crazy expensive to buy that sort of stuff over there. So I had like some Gorilla tape and I taped up the suitcase as best as I could. And actually that worked pretty well. But I just needed a new suitcase. So I had like a new suitcase. I packed up all my stuff and I was ready to go to Taiwan. And there I went on March, I think 12th or something like that. Or was it like March 17th? I forget. But I was in quarantine for 10 days. They lightened it from 2 weeks to 10-day quarantine. And then another 7 days of like, they call it self-health management or something like that, where you can go out, but you cannot go to like big gatherings and anything like that. Which I don't know if I can really say it, but I did kind of do. But I guess it's really hard for them to monitor that sort of stuff. But you're basically given like 6 or 7 corona tests upon arrival. Like they were serious about this shit. Like they were like all out. Which right now is very interesting because they still have, or I think up until October 13th, they will still have a 3-day quarantine. Or not 3 days. Plus like 4 days of like this self-health management stuff. But like it's interesting because there are more COVID cases per person in Taiwan than any other country currently. Or I think it's one of the highest. So you actually have a more of a chance of getting COVID in Taiwan than in any other country. So if you're like coming from another country, you are less likely to have COVID than in that country, and you still have to quarantine. Like it's anyway. I guess it's also like a cultural thing. Like they're very about like cleanliness and hygiene, that sort of stuff. So um, yeah, but I still have to go in quarantine. Like when I came, I think they had maybe 100 cases a day. So it was ramping up, but it was still very, very low at the time. Like they basically, if you were a case, you would almost come in the news, you know? And actually, that was crazy because 1 month before I went to Taiwan, I caught it. I caught COVID for the first time. I caught it from, I think, work. There was like a colleague that after not seeing each other for like months, because like during winter we were in like another lockdown, um, we finally had like a developer dinner. So like all of us developers together after months of not seeing each other, and then that turned out to be a COVID event. Just so funny. Like we were even like joking about it. Like developers come together one time, and then they spread COVID. So I was positive. I didn't actually infect any of my family members. They all got it at some point later. But yeah, I it started off with like a throat ache, I think, and then a bit of a weird nose. Like it wasn't like a runny nose, but it was a bit of like a, I don't know, like kind of runny, but not. I mean, it doesn't really feel like the flu. Like it feels, you kind of feel you have it. You still don't really don't really know what it is. Um, I might have it now. Actually, I don't, because I've been testing like 4 or 5 times. I don't have it. I think this is just like a flu thing. But oh yeah, and then I also lost my smell and my taste towards the end of it. So I was sick for a couple of days. Like I even took like one day off of work, but because you can work from home, it's, even if you're a little bit sick, you just work, right? So so I took one day off. I was very like hi Dream Kalamut. Welcome to the stream. So I was sick for like a couple days. Slowly got better, but like this not having any taste definitely stayed for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then like I was going to Taiwan, and I really wanted to have like my taste back because Taiwan is known for good food, you know. So I was like, oh shit, I really hope that. Oh, thanks. That's a good compliment. Thank you so much. That's why I'm here. Okay, interesting. Good to know. So yeah, that was also scary because you can still test positive. Like I had to have like a PCR test done before I could go to Taiwan, and this test had to be negative. And it's different than a at home test. Like this, like PCR test, like both nose and throat. So it's more sensitive, and I've heard that like even like 3 months after you've had it, you can still test positive on this test, on the PCR test. So but yeah, getting like a test done for travel also costs quite a lot of money. So I didn't want to like gamble anything. So I actually did like a government test. I think 1 week before or a couple days before I did this test, which is technically not allowed. Like you have to have like symptoms, and so I said like I had symptoms, whatever. So I did this like government test, turned out to be negative. So then I was like, okay, then this other test will probably also be negative, and it was. So that was a pretty good feeling. Like it was already a sweet feeling when I finally had a visa in my passport, which was like another like crazy thing to apply for. Like they need to know like your school diploma, your quarantine hotel confirmation, your university invitation letter, and like admission letter from university, like a whole list of things. Like I think even like financial statement, you have enough money to go there. Like it's a huge list of things that you need to um, basically prepare. And I think it was like the stack was like this high that I just like brought to the embassy in The Hague, which luckily is not that far from me. So I went there, I think like 2 or 3 times. Like I already went there once before when like they closed down. I was like, I'm just gonna go there, and then they refused me because like they were closed down. Yeah, exactly. Since October 13th, there will be no more quarantine, and then it's only like a 7-day like self-healthy management you need. Yeah, that's correct. And then you can technically go out, but you gotta wear a mask anywhere. which you have to do anyways. Only if you're on a scooter or on a bicycle, you don't have to wear it. Yeah, exactly. Went back to Taiwan, no more painful isolation. Correct. I mean, actually, it wasn't that bad because I was able to order a lot of like Taiwan food. You're able to like kind of use Uber Eats. For I think they're not always allow you to do this, but for my quarantine they did. So, anyways, took the flight on March and like I think half March, like 17 or 18. I don't exactly remember. I think it was March 18, and then I arrived March 19. I think I kind of forget. Anyways, yeah, 10-day quarantine. So like if you have like a Corona checklist, I think Matt also like basically ticks off all the checks. Like you've done your quarantine, you've done your vaccine, you've had it. So you've been in like home isolation, lockdown, and then like the quarantine as well. Okay, thanks. Okay, cool. Bedtime. Interesting. Anyway, so that's that was the like the quarantine experience, which was very interesting because I arrived in the dead of night, or I think I arrived like 7 p.m. And when I arrived, I had to do a PCR test on arrival as well, or like I don't know if it was a PCR test or like a quick test. But basically, when we arrived, we were put in this chamber which we couldn't leave, and we were basically like we all got like a number on our shirt, and then they would one by one, so they would like announce your number, and then you would have to stand in line, and then you would go to like this back area where like all of these tests thingies were going on. So you were given your test tube and like your little swab thingy. You had to give it to the person, and you had to sit down. They did the thing, and then and they would like keep the stuff and everything. They had to go back, sit again. Then around like an hour later, they would announce, or they would say like the people that didn't have it, or like the test was negative, like numbers 1 until 5 can leave or something like that. You know what I mean? So then they would leave, and then you would hear like it was very scary because you would hear like numbers 1 until 5, and then 5 until 10, and then everything like that. And then you would like sometimes have like a gap, like they would be like 28 until 30 can leave, like then like number 26 or 27 probably caught it, and they were just like put somewhere we don't even know. Or I think they were put in like a government hospital or anything like that. But yeah, it was very serious. Like I remember going there, and like you see all of these like airport staff in hazmat suits and all that sort of stuff. It was really serious at the time still. Anyways, got through that. Then I had to get like a Taiwan SIM card upon arrival, so I got that as well. Then I was with like a group of other students at the time. Like we were like the people that were coming on the student visa were kind of like with like a guide, and no one was going to Tainan. Like I think a few were going to Taipei, one was going to Taoyuan, and then another one was going to Kaohsiung, which is like all the way in the south. So I mean, Tainan is also pretty far from Taipei. So there was still like a 3-hour drive for the two of us then to go to our locations, because the quarantine facility for both of us was in the city that we were going to reside in. So that was like a very hectic situation, man. Like there was this one student that couldn't use his card, and they needed like cash for the bus driver or for the taxi driver. So he was like panicking, and then like like there was just all of this like, do you have your? There was a lot of like, so you had this like form you had to fill in on this really crappy website, and you can only use your phone, of course, and then you have to like fill in your new Taiwan number. Then you would receive a text, and I didn't receive my text, so there was like technically something going on. It was just a hassle. Then I got my luggage and everything, and then we finally, after I think like maybe 2 or 3 hours after we landed, we arrived at the taxi depot, and then I was sprayed down again, and my bag was sprayed down again by the taxi driver, and then like he was being set in like the rear seat, being completely like with this like plastic like away from the taxi driver. And then we drove for like 3 hours to my quarantine hotel in Thailand. Um, at this time, it was like already like in the middle of the night. It was like 2 a.m. and I couldn't really see much of the road because like there was like this blind thing, so you couldn't really see much. And I was pretty tired, so I was like sleeping at that time, or trying to sleep at least. And then I got to the quarantine place, and I was put in a room where I couldn't actually like see that much. Like I could see like a few, like it was like in this, like looking at this back alley area. I was like on the 14th floor as well, in the center of the city, but I couldn't really see anything. So I, like up until that point, I hadn't really actually seen Taiwan. So for the first like 10 days that I was there, I actually hadn't even seen like the streets or any of like the buildings that were there, which was like very interesting. I remember we had this like very small window that you could only open to like this much, and then you could kind of like put your head through it, and you could kind of like feel the outside air, which was like a bit humid and a bit hot. I mean, inside they just had like air conditioning everywhere. And then on like the third day, there was like an earthquake, like a pretty hefty one as well, like a 6 point something earthquake. So that was like my first proper earthquake as well, which is crazy. And I was basically I was getting a meal 3 times a day. So I would get breakfast at around like 7, but because you're in quarantine, you like I had a bit of a jet lag and I couldn't really work through it very well. So I would often like sleep very late at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then wake up very late as well at like 12 or so. At the time, I was still working full time for my company, but because of the time zone difference, their day started at 4 p.m. until like midnight. So I would work most of the time. I would already start like around like 11ish or 12ish, and then work until my evening and stuff. So yeah, I was still very much like on the Dutch time zone. So like, and we would get like breakfast at like 7:30 or 8 a.m. So often time, and it was like warm. It was like Taiwan breakfast. So sometimes it was like a burger, which is very strange. Like that's not very normal to eat in Europe, but it's very funny because later I also found out like if you go to like a breakfast joint there, um, like they often have like burgers or fries on the menu, like fried stuff, which like in the morning for me at least that's very unusual. But so that was interesting. I couldn't always eat the stuff I got, so I would often get like my own breakfast at like I remember like Louisa Cafe, which is kind of like the Starbucks of Taiwan, and they had like your Western style like toast and coffee and that sort of stuff. So I would often get like a coffee from there and something else for in the morning. Then in the afternoon, because Seal was also I was also talking to him at the time. He would often like send me like links to a Taiwanese food. So you have like Taiwan food, and then a lot of the cities kind of like have their own specialty. So Tainan had like a few specialties, like one of the things was what was it called, mi cow, which is like rice with on top there was just like fishy stuff, which is very nice. What else did I have? I think also I had near road hang, which is like beef soup. So like beef pieces and that sort of stuff. Freek is back. So like I actually got already like a pretty good taste of Taiwan and Tainan food before even seeing the place. So that was very interesting. Like I was like already eating like a lot of these like Taiwan dishes, which were all very tasty, by the way, and of course bubble tea. Like you cannot go without bubble tea, of course. So yeah, that was very interesting. I remember like on the weekend I was trying to do a bit of exercise, and they put just like 2 boxes of water in your room, like with just like bottles of water in there, and I would like use those to like presses, like bench presses with those, and like push-ups, and I was like running from the door to the window, which is like maybe like a 10-meter stretch. So I would like run back and forth for like 2 hours straight on the weekend. Um, yeah, so like quarantine, it was a bit painful, I guess, but it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought. It was actually quite fine. Um, I'm hearing something in the back. I don't know. Oh no, it's not me. So that was very interesting to have that. Thank you. I'm not eating right now, so I have some bread. I'll eat it later. I just want to finish the story on this live stream. I don't know how long we're still gonna. We might make it 3 hours. I'm not sure how long I'll still be talking, but I'll just be talking for a while and see where it goes. We're almost caught up, by the way. Like the Taiwan thing is like the last major event, and then that's ended. Oh, there's one more event afterwards, but we'll get to it. Anyway, yeah. So quarantine for 10 days. Then I booked another hotel. By the way, I hadn't set anything up at this point. Like my place to live, I hadn't set up yet. I all postponed it to a bit later. I had about 2 weeks to kind of like set all of this up before I actually started the study. So in those 2 weeks, I would kind of like plan to do all of that sort of stuff. Yeah, so got out of quarantine, got into a different hotel. I had to have for like this 7-day self-health management thingy. I had to have my own room with my own bathroom. That was the most important thing. So I had to basically like book another hotel. I could have stayed in a quarantine hotel, but then I probably wouldn't have been able to leave. And this other hotel, I actually can go out, which I actually did very quickly after. So basically, after this quarantine stay, I went to that hotel. Finally, was able to see a few things of Taiwan. Chaos. My first impression was, yeah, like chaos on the street. Lots of scooters, lots of cars, like traffic, very, very, very chaotic. It was still like April, so it wasn't that hot yet. It wasn't like very sweaty or anything like that. It was still pretty all right. There was a bit of smog in the air. You could definitely tell that it was a little bit polluted, but it wasn't as bad. But it was definitely a bit of pollution there, and very little greenery. Like there are a few parks here and there, but it's a very built area, and I think that Tainan it's very spread out, so it's also very difficult to get to like nature. But thing is, once you're in nature, you're in nature. Like that's the cool thing about Taiwan. Like in the middle, they have this like very spectacular mountain change. So you have like big mountains, like jungly mountain and beautiful. I've seen some beautiful stuff there. At a very unique time because there weren't many other tourists at the time. Like I have fought to go to to go to Taiwan. Like I've actually like really like done a lot of effort to actually go here. Like I could have already given up months ago, but I didn't want to give up. Had to use my Chinese pretty much right away. People were always very happy when I spoke Chinese because I had already been learning it for like 10 months again, like relearning. So my basis was already there with pronunciation. So it was actually going very well. I could like utilize the language very well, and everything was actually kind of falling into place. Like I wanted to do this from that moment on already, or I wanted to do this already for a long time. And actually like being here and finally being able to speak the language with local people, I mean that was amazing. Like it was such like a nice experience to say like finally, like like not really a bucket list item, but you know that feeling when you're working towards something for so long and you're finally there. It finally comes together. Like it's sort of funny because like that period maybe lasted for like a week, like the first week when I was there, and then was like kind of like figuring out the next steps, which turned out to be a little bit different than I expected. But let's get to that a bit later. Anyway, the first week was amazing. I already made friends pretty quickly. I met a guy that like had a Western appearance, but he'd already been living in Taiwan pretty much all his life. I think he was even born there. But his parents were from Switzerland, and they were missionaries there. So they were missionaries in Taiwan, and he also had been on like some Taiwanese YouTube videos. That was another dream of mine. I wanted to become like a Taiwan YouTuber. So So I wanted to like open like a Chinese channel or like Chinese TikTok. I don't know. I was like, I'll figure it out later. I first like need to get settled, that sort of stuff. But I like also to learn the language. I wanted to open a Chinese YouTube channel, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, that never really happened. It might happen. Who knows? Maybe later. Who knows? But I wanted to do that, like try Thailand food or Taiwan food, all that sort of stuff. So met this guy. Through him, met another guy that later invited me for a road trip. So after like my first week of being there, I already was on like a road trip in Taiwan, which is pretty crazy. I was like already driving on the roads because like we were like taking turns. So like I've been driving for like a year and a half at this point, and then I was already like driving in Taiwan, which was pretty crazy. I could legally drive there, like I had this like international license. Actually, I could not legally ride scooter there, which I did do, but my license is not like, how to say, really compliant for the scooter. Which actually reminds me, I should actually get the scooter license as well while I'm in the Netherlands. I haven't taken a look at that yet. I should actually do that, because that will save a lot of hassle. Like a lot of countries don't care. Like I think if I were to go to, for example, Indonesia again or places like that, I would be fine. But it's like my license is valid for scooters until like 50cc, and the scooters that you most often have in like Asian countries are more than that, like 125cc or stuff like that. So I could technically not really ride those. I could at least put them not put them on my name. So like for the first, I think 2 or 3 weeks, I was renting a scooter, but that's a lot more expensive than actually buying one. So this friend that I made there actually helped me buy a scooter, but then like put it on his name. So it's actually like his scooter, but I paid for it and everything like that. And yeah, so that's interesting that you, and that's also interesting because you can put it on a name even if you don't have a license. So you can just put it on your name because you're a resident of Taiwan, I guess, or you have like an ARC, which is like an alien residence card or certificate, which I didn't have. I was just there on a not on a tourist visa, on a student visa, but I wasn't eligible for this ARC yet, which I'll get to later, because yeah, that was one of the things that I wanted to get in the end, or I wanted to work for, but things didn't really turn out to work out that way. Andrew Kent joined late. Where am I located? I'm back home. I'm in my childhood bedroom in the Netherlands, and I am a programmer here, but I have travel plans. I have also traveled this year. I've lived in Taiwan for 5 months. I'm currently telling that story of Taiwan, where I went to in March this year, and I came back in August, or half August this year. And also like in the end, I also want to like kind of talk about I want to talk about the future plans that I have, which are coming up. Do I still have the SpongeBob knuffle? Knuffle means doll in Dutch. I actually have something better now. I got this on the Taiwan market. I have a Patrick one. Ta-da! Nice, no? Yes, Patrick will join the live stream. Where shall I put it? Is this in view? I'll put it here. There you go. That's nice, right? Patrick. Yeah, there you go. Okay, that looks good. Yeah. All right. yeah. I used to be like a very, like when I was younger, like I like dolls and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's that. Anyways, so yeah, I the first week was amazing. So I met some friends. I met this one very helpful friend. Later there was some drama. 海大星. What does that mean, Seal? Is that like is that Patrick? Oh, that's Sea Star. Yeah, it's Sea Star. There you go. Yeah, I know I've been streaming for 2.5 hours, but I'm not finished with my story yet, so I'll just continue until I'm finished with my story, I guess. Yeah, 海大星 it means sea star, or do you call it a sea star? I guess yeah. There you go. So yeah, I can, even though I don't know the word, but I can figure it out. I can figure it out. Anyway, so yeah, that first week was really amazing. I met some I met some friends already even before the study started. Was invited to go to like this huge fireworks. It was the biggest fireworks I'd ever seen in my life. Like like the actual like the blast of like I mean the shells must have been this big. It was like a temple celebration. So it was at the Luerman Temple in Tainan. Like it's a bit up in the north. It's like I think like a 30-minute drive from where I was. So with my new friends, I went there. Huge, like a lot of people as well. Like it was very busy, and like these very big shells. So like if that thing exploded, you could just like feel it in your chest. Like the vibration. I'd never experienced anything like that. That was like amazing. Yeah, starfish, sea star. That's how we call it in Dutch. Like zeester, sea star. And I guess that's how you call it in Chinese as well, because hai means sea and da xing means like star. So that's why, like, I did a literal translation, but it's starfish. Yeah. Anyway, when you learn a lot of languages, you mix them up and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, so that was crazy. I did make some videos there. I brought the camera to that temple. It was like a very traditional temple, like a huge temple. It was like a temple complex. Like it wasn't as big as like the Forbidden City, but it was like huge. Like you had this like inner part, and then you had this like stuff around it. You had these like bridges with like goldfish like swimming around, like very Chinese feeling. And then like there was like all these people gathered there for like this insane fireworks that was going on there. There was also like that's like a Taiwanese custom where they have this like it's like a carriage and with like a lot of fireworks on it, and these are basically like arrows that just shoot out on the sides. So it looks very weird, but you see like these things like coming out on the side, and they basically hit people. So there are people like standing very close by to it in like full like protective gear, and they just want to be hit by this stuff. So they're standing there like wanting to be hit because that like brings luck. It's crazy. Like that was just crazy to see. Also got invited by another guy that I met during like a night out, and he wanted to like bring me around the island, or not like around the island, but around like Tainan. Yeah, a bit crazy because like it was like on a drunken night. I just said yes. In the beginning I was a bit of like how to say, like a bit loose. Like I was just like yeah to this, yes to that. Ding zheng, no ding zheng hai da xing. Is that pai da xing? Pai da xing means Patrick Star. Ah, okay. So like a little bit of a literal translation of or like pronunciation of Patrick Star. So yeah, this was like one of the best introductions to like a new place ever. Yeah, that was just crazy. That was like just like first like having the firework, and then with this guy he brought me to like all the famous sites. So first we went to like the beach. What was it called again? I already forget the name. It wasn't Golden Beach, but it was like this island. I think Yu Guang, like Yu Guang Island, where you have like Sunset Point there. And then later we went to the Chukhan Lo, like Chukhan Temple, which is in the center of Tainan as well. Yeah, exactly. Patrick sounds similar to Pai. That's true. Yeah. So that's and then we also went to the hot springs. So this is like in Guanzheling hot springs. So that's like a little bit outside of Tainan. Like it's already like towards the north, towards the mountains. That's the first time where I saw like proper like Taiwan mountains. And they basically have these like hot springs, which are very interesting. They kind of reminded me of saunas, but they're not exactly the same. So we had this like room, and they had this like bathtub in it, like this stone bathtub, and it had this like two like how do you say, like, you know, taps of water. Like one was cold, one was hot, and like the hot water was like insanely hot, and the water that was coming out was like kind of like muddy, which he said is like only in this area, and it smelled like a bit. It smelled very. It smelled very good actually. It was very good for your skin. So that was like an interesting like. It also kind of reminds me of like onsen in Japan. So it's kind of like this like hot spring like sauna wellness type of experience, which was very interesting to just like you just relax there for like 3 hours or so. So he just basically took me on like a very action packed day. Um, but he was very like he was super enthusiastic. You know, he was like a very enthusiastic guy, but he wanted to like meet me every day and all this sort of stuff. I was like, you know, he wanted to make like a best friend, and that's very nice. But you know, like it was a bit like a lot. You know, it was like a lot all of a sudden. So I was like still like kind of like getting my footing around there, and I still had to get like an apartment or like a place. Now, I wasn't entirely sure if I was going to stay there like very long term. My visa was only for 2 months, and I basically had to extend my visa based on my study. So if I could prove to the immigration agency that I was going to study for longer, I could stay longer. And I was on the short-term visa, so it's like a visitor type visa, which you can maximally extend until half a year, and then you have to change to a resident visa. Then you get like the ARC, and then you can like put the scooter on your name, or you can have like Taiwan insurance. You have like a few more perks at that point. And this is basically more for people that are really staying there long term, like they're either studying there like for 4 years or 6 years. Um, so that sort of stuff. So in my mind, I was like, okay, I'll do this study for like 6 months to obtain this visa, and then I could stay there and have a bit more freedom. Um, so I didn't feel like going for like an apartment for like a year there. I wasn't entirely sure of that. So in the end, I resorted to the university. There was like a housing agency from the university, and so they're basically like geared towards students that need like housing, or like it's basically like a student dormitory. So in the end, I was a little bit panicking, because I like, if I wanted to rent an apartment, they would almost always be like yearly contracts, and I mean rent there is very cheap, like really like a lot cheaper than in the West. That's why I'm still living here. But yeah, I was basically like, fuck, like I cannot stay at my hotel for very much longer, because then like money would run out. I mean, at this point I'd saved quite a lot of money. I was still working, so there was actually nothing to really worry about. But I had a bit of like a rush to get my apartment. Now in the end, went to this like university housing agency. They showed me like two places, and then I went for one, like a student dorm, which was in a very like quiet area. It was actually very nice. Like the place was in a very quiet area, like very like hidden away in one of these like very like small alleyways in pretty much the center of Tainan. The only thing is, this place did not have a kitchen. It was like super simple. I had like a bed, which was like very small. So I asked like if I could have a bigger bed. In the end, I could luckily get like a pretty much a two-person bed, and it had like a desk, kind of like this size, like pretty large desk, a chair. It had a washing machine outside, so it had like a little balcony with like a washing machine. It was on the sixth floor. Like the whole building itself only had like 6 floors, and and it had a bathroom. That was it. Like and like a closet like this. Basically, like that's all. Like that's all it had. Very basic, very simple. Just made for like students. But it didn't have a kitchen. So like I couldn't like cook my meals. Now the thing is, you're in Tainan, so you're also not really going to cook, because like around the corner you can find like a whole street with like street food. You can find all types of food there. You can find like local food. You can find other Asian food, like it's often with rice, but you can and it's cheap, like for like €4 or €5, you can have like a very good meal. And that's what a lot of Taiwanese people do, is they always like eat out uh, pretty much all the time. So actually, it's very normal if your house doesn't have a kitchen there, which I found a bit shocking. And if I were to go back, I would probably get a kitchen, just because I do like to make things myself as well. But it's very convenient to just eat out all the time. Like one day you go to a Korean restaurant, then you go to like a Japanese restaurant, then you go eat Thailand food or Taiwan food, or you also had like some cuisines that were more specific about like other cuisines within Taiwan. Like for example, there's another city that I in the end ended up going to quite often, which is Jiayi. Seal probably knows it. I think Seal, you mentioned you were like from Jiayi area, and they're famous for their turkey meat, or like the turkey and rice, I think, or like chicken and rice, if I'm saying that correctly. So like you had like a lot of like different variety of foods that is not very popular in the West, but it's proper, like it's good food, like it's not like your crazy Chinese, like chicken feet or scary things like that. It's actually very, very proper, like good food, and pretty clean as well. So in the end, it was actually fine to eat out a lot of the times, and yeah, it was pretty crazy. It's Cheeto fun, yeah, turkey. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's actually one of my favorites. I really enjoyed that dish. Um, so made some videos as well for my time there. But yeah, anyways, in the end, just the visa situation again. That's kind of like what got to me, and that's part of the reason why I'm also back home, because so there was this foresight of having a resident visa. I was like, okay, I can study for like 6 months, right? Which means I had to do like two semesters, because every semester is like 3 months. Did one semester, finish it from start to finish. It was pretty intense because everything was in Chinese. Like from the day I arrived there, everything was Chinese. um, which was pretty intense in the beginning. I think it was because I did like a placement test back in the Netherlands, and I apparently did that placement test so well that I was placed in the highest group. I was basically placed in the highest group that the university offered for foreign students, or not for foreign students, but for foreign students that would have their first semester during that time. Because they, like timing wise, it was a bit weird because it didn't start at the start of the semester, because we could only arrive there towards the end of March, because the government only opened the border just now for those type of people. So they made like a special curriculum and a special group for the people that just came in during that time. They call it like Niti Pan, which is like crammed group. So like the amount of stuff we had to learn was like normal for like a 3 month period, and we had to cram it in like 2.5 months or something like that, or like 2 months. So it was intense. Like it was a lot. It was 3 hours a day. So I thought, like, on paper, it sounds pretty doable, right? Like you have 3 hours of Chinese class, and then you have, like, in my case, 4 hours of work for my company. But in reality, that was just undoable. um, it was just very stressful because I didn't really know that many people. Like I had made 2 friends, which was great. But oh yeah, and the first 2 weeks the study was online as well, because there were like 1 or 2 corona cases at the university. So all of the classes were online, and my work was online, and there was not really an easy way to meet new people. Now, before, I would always like rely on things like couch surfing and that sort of stuff, but um, I think couch surfing, since that they have announced like a payment, like you have to pay yearly to be able to make use of that app. So a lot of people like went away from that. And as I just mentioned, like since Corona, that community feeling that I used to really rely on during my travels wasn't really there anymore. And especially because in Taiwan, like Corona is still very tangible. Like it's, you have to wear a mask everywhere you go. when I arrived there, you have to scan a code. Like every shop has a QR code, and you always have to scan it before you can enter the shop. So like, and also like cultural difference, like it's not a culture that I'm used to. I know the language and it definitely helps, but it's still like in terms of like customs and actually like being there, it's different. You know what I mean? Like they have a different way of approaching people than a lot of people in the West have. They're like a bit more reserved, and you have to like, just like I just had to basically learn a lot of these things and simultaneously basically do a full-time study. Like it was 3 hours a day, but the amount of homework you get, like the amount of self-study you were supposed to do, it was just for like a lot of stuff. And I had my schedule like this so that like in the and my Chinese language lesson actually overlapped with my Dutch um, work meetings. So at some point I didn't even see my colleagues for a long time because like we would always have like a morning meeting at 9:15 a.m. And in Taiwan that's 3:15 p.m. at this point. Like there's like, Europe has like summer winter time, and at the time like it started to become summertime. So there was, instead of like a 6-hour difference, there was a 5-hour difference between the two. Or no, from a 7-hour it's 6 hours. And soon it's going back to 7 hours. It's confusing. So anyways, my class was from 1 p.m. until 4 p.m. And then my meeting was at 3:15 p.m. So I would always miss it. So at some point, like I even like lost a bit of contact with my colleagues. And I mean, my ambition was still to get further in coding because, in the end, like I really want to have my own job, or I want my own job, my own company, or like I want to have my own thing going on. And I didn't really have like I would really wanted to work towards it, but I always said like, okay, once I'm in Taiwan, I'm going to work on those things again. But the study was already like I heard from my classmates, like it's pretty much a full-time thing to do for them, let alone for me, that I also need to still work for 4 hours after that. And I also still kind of want to have like a social life, which is very hard when you cannot actually go to the university and meet people. You know what I mean? So the first 2 weeks were mentally a bit taxing on me. After those 2 weeks, we went back into personal class, which was very nice. Was able to finally like meet some people behind the mask, of course, because you have to wear a mask everywhere you go. Which I do think kind of takes away a bit of that like personality. Like it's just like a thing you can kind of hide behind, because like right now I'm speaking to you, and like certain facial expressions are not just your eyes, it's also the rest of your body. So if you're like only talking to like a pair of eyes, at some point you like a bit of like the communicational like distance is a bit larger. So I feel like it takes away a bit of like that experience. And it's very funny because like you see people like only like from this way up, and then later, like for example, we would eat out with each other, and then you put off the mask, and then there's like the face changes. Like what you expected them to look like is very different from what they actually look like, which is which is like very interesting. Like, oh, okay, so like now you finally have like a full face, and then if they put the mask on again, it's like back to like the older periods. Anyway, it's interesting. I actually think that like, because there are a lot of young kids in Taiwan now that have not had an era without masks. So they basically are born, and then they always see like people having masks on, and like I feel like for them, like the communicational skills it's really going to impact them later on, because they don't really know how to express things with their whole face, because they've never really been able to like see it from other people. Of course, if you're in your house or anything like that, you put off the mask and anything like that sort of stuff. But yeah, I personally really hope that they'll be able to like lift that restriction of having to wear a mask in public. They already restricted it for cycling and on a scooter, but practically speaking, it doesn't make much sense, because like if you're on a scooter and then later you're gonna stop somewhere at the shop and then you gotta put it on again, like it's more of a hassle to do it that way. The only nice thing is when I was cycling in Taiwan, it was actually very nice to be able to put it off, because then it was like hot and I was sweaty and like I had to like breathe air. So that was actually very nice. So anyways, like that was the study period was a bit taxing on me. I remember like also being a bit stressed because like I wanted to have lunch with my new friends that I made on the university, but I also still had my job, and they had a meeting, and it just didn't really work well together. I feel like if I were to go there just with my job or with a study that's maybe a little bit less taxing, it would have been a bit better. But then again, at this point, like I was also like pretty deep in the study, and I wanted to finish it and all that sort of stuff. And I still thought that with continuing to study, I could later obtain the resident visa, with which I would have a bit more freedom. But at the time, and that's maybe one of my own mistakes, is like I thought, like my assumptions were just assumptions, and wasn't really like together with how it really was. So I after 2 months I had to renew my visa, so I did that. Had another 2 months, and then I had to renew it one more time. And basically, I went there again. I signed up for the second semester because I could only stay until like the last day of your semester. So I had to like already make the payment and sign up for the semester and basically have all of that set in place. And I was able to extend my visa again. And so I went to the immigration office, and basically, if I wanted to go for this resident visa thingy, I had to basically do another semester at least. And I've heard from people at that point, like they said, like, yeah, they're probably going to make your ARC or your alien resident visa valid until the last day of your study. And they already did it at this point. So I was only registered for another 3 months, and it was ending like on August 27, I think. And I only got my visa until that day. So like even if on that day I still had like a full day of school, I had to be out of the country by the end of the day, which is ridiculous. Like that's crazy. Like I even like looked at the immigration officer at the time. I was like, so I'm not getting anything else, because like if he would have extended me for the full 6 months, then I would have had like another maybe like 2 weeks after the study. So then that would be like a bit more like normal. Like, okay, yeah, at least I got 2 weeks to kind of like pick up my stuff. But no, it's like, because your admission letter says August 27, you're only going to get until August 27. And like the study was great and all. Like I learned a lot through it, but I wasn't gonna be in Taiwan just for the study. I wasn't just going to like be there for 6 months and only be in the books and not really have the time to see anything of the country. Now, between the two semesters was like a 2-week period in which I did some travel, but still it wasn't like I don't know. I was a bit stuck. I was like, okay, but I don't really know if I can do another 3 months of like heavy studying with my work as well, which was already a bit taxing at the time, and still have like a social life beside it. I also wanted to, make YouTube videos there, or at least get back to that. I wanted to promote my map application again. So in the end, I decided to basically just sit out this visa extension that I got and come back later. So like go back to my country of the Netherlands and then come back when the visa situation is a bit more manageable. For example, when the working holiday visa is available again, which it actually is right now. So yeah, it was just very like it was very nice. Like I really like the Taiwan culture, and the country is really beautiful. The houses are a bit strange because there were multiple times where we had like a hotel room with no windows, which apparently is very normal there. But I'm like, wow, no windows. Like, okay. But yeah, apparently that's like you have a lot of like rooms that have no windows apparently, or like a lot of like, but the houses like even on the countryside, yeah, like you have these houses that from the front they look very nice. Like they have like a nice window and a like nice patio and all that sort of stuff. But from the sides, it's like you take them out of like this row of houses. You just slice off the sides, take the rest away, and you have these like walls on the side with like maybe a small window where the bathroom is. You know, it's like it's very interesting architecture, very different from like here, for example. And they like to build high. Like you always have like your apartment complexes. It's kind of like in China, but China is pretty more like full on. So the cities were like okay, like the university is very beautiful. Like Chengkung University has a very nice campus. Like it's very big as well, and all that sort of stuff. But you definitely would go there for the nature and for the cycling, of course, which I also did, which is probably going to be the last thing I'll be talking about because I'm getting a bit tired. And yeah, I've been going for like 3 hours now. So anyway, yeah, let's try to kind of wrap it up at this point. So yeah, it's like a 2-week trip. At this point, I had been meeting with a girl. Her name is Shania. She's my girlfriend now. From Indonesia, actually. She's a student in Jai, actually. She studies at Zhongzhengdash, if you know Seal, that university. It's like in Minchong. It's like a bit to the north of Jai, which is also very interesting because it's this huge. It's another like huge university, but this one is like in the middle of nowhere. So you have like just like countryside. You know, they have like a small town Minchong, and then like maybe like a 5-minute drive from that, you have like the entrance to like this huge university, which is very interesting. Like, you know, everything is on the university campus, like your dormitories and basically where you live. So I knew her from, I think it was like Bumble or like Tinder, and like one of these like apps. And I basically already knew her from when I came to Taiwan. Like we were already talking when I was in quarantine. And then we didn't meet for like a month because we were both kind of like busy with stuff. And also because like her university, like Jai, is about like an hour away from Tainan by train. So like if we wanted to do something together, then we would really have to like plan out a weekend. Yeah, she lives in Jai in Minchong indeed. Yeah. So I've always like the nice thing in the city that she lives in. It's a bit more like in the interior of Taiwan, and there is this like very like old or picturesque red train that would like kind of go into the mountains. I think it's like a Japanese. I don't know if it's like from the Japanese era, but it's like from the wood logging era where you had this like train track that would go like into the mountains and stuff. And it's like one of the main things to do there. And the mountains is called like Alisan, and that's famous for like your sunrise is very pretty there, and it's a little inconvenient place. Yes, yeah. It's a very nice town, but it's super strange to have like this university in the middle of like nowhere, you know, like yeah. But I actually really like that area personally. I like the vibe there because it's like a student town. Yeah, Mount Ali, like Alisan Railway. So I think it was like some weekend in the beginning of May. So I'd been in Taiwan for like a month at this point, where we decided to go on a little weekend trip together. So it wasn't like a date, like an evening date. It was like a weekend date. So pretty full on immediately. You get to know each other pretty well at that point. But everything clicked. Like it was just like good, you know, like together it was fun. For study only, it's a good environment. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's there's like one Starbucks there which I like to work at, actually. That's very interesting. But she is it was just like a lot of fun together at that point. So not very long after, I think, well, maybe like a couple of weeks after, that's when we actually started to, you know, have a relationship and that sort of stuff. And that's where we're in right now. So again, long distance relationship like before, like I had a year ago when I was in Bali. She is a bit different though. Like it's anyway. Don't really want to go too much into like that on that love sort of stuff. But anyway, that's what's going on. She's currently back in Taiwan studying. She went to Europe with me a little bit later. It was in I think in July, when I decided to go back to the Netherlands, and we had been dating for like 2 months at that point. And I I was a bit in a conflict because I was like, I cannot really stay, but I also don't want to like just like leave like that, because like we were actually starting to get a bit serious. So I was like, hey, would you like to come with me to Europe for a little while? So that was like, I think the start of July, where I asked that question, and then she was like, yeah, sure. That's the great thing about her. She's very like, she's like me, it's like she can be very spontaneous about like ideas and plans, like just do it, you know what I mean? So ended up taking her to my home country for about 3.5 weeks. She was on summer holiday at the time. She was actually working in a factory in Tallinn. So I would spend like quite a lot of time in Tallinn. She actually had like an aunt living in Tallinn with some cousins. So we would do like fun things with them. I actually celebrated my birthday there. And that's pretty funny. Like at the time I started my bike trip, and then my girlfriend was like, you have to be in Tallinn on your birthday. Like you cannot be cycling alone on your birthday. You got to be there. So we were having like this karaoke night, and then at like that was like the 28th of July, one day before my birthday. And then at midnight we were singing like karaoke in like this karaoke bar. And then she would like come out with like a cake, but it wasn't a cake. It was like a chicken fillet, like tea pie, with like candles on it. So cute, like so funny. It was like they didn't have like a cake, so they had like this. They bought this like tea pie with like these candles, and it was so amazing. So that was like very very sweet. And yeah, I took her to Europe. Well, I also did a bike trip there. I'll get into that in a different day, on a different day. I think I don't really have that much time to talk about it, but did vlogging as well on this trip. I don't know, guys. Cycling is still a part of my life, but I don't think it's gonna go back to the way that it was before. And I know that a lot of you guys have followed me from the cycling days. Which was a different experience like 5 years ago, and I was cycling like 3 years for 6 months. And this was like going to be like a 2-week trip from so first Sun Moon Lake. So on the 25th I cycled around Sun Moon Lake for like 3 days. Then on the 29th I went to 28th I went to Tallinn, and then I cycled from Taipei to Taitung, so like along the east coast. Yeah, spoiling a little bit. And I cycled around Lutao, which is like this very small island off the coast of Taitung, which like in the southeast. The eastern part of the island is where the least amount of people live, and that's where you find the most beautiful nature, especially like Hualien is so gorgeous. Like it's a little ways down from Taipei. It's like on the west coast or east coast. Beautiful place, like absolutely beautiful place. I spent I went there twice. I went there during my 2-week break between study and with my girlfriend, and then I cycled there again when I went from Taipei to Taitung. Oh yeah, the study. Yeah, I was supposed to do a study during this time, but I didn't go. I went for like 2 weeks into the new semester. I did complete one whole semester, but because of the work, like the study pressure and then the work pressure, I actually stepped down a level. And because I actually passed the level was very high. Like for me, it was like we were talking complex stuff, like political systems. What else? I already forget actually. Like we weren't learning stuff like how do you ask people the way. Like we were actually like writing like essays and having like presentations and talking about like the history of your country and like you need like political stuff and like so it was already like very like complex Chinese that we were practicing. So then like that was already pretty intense, and I felt like I was actually passing the class, so I could actually step up a level the next semester, which I did for one day. So one day it was back online because at this point like COVID was spreading really fast. So the first week we were online, and we were supposed to do like I mean, on the first day we already had to do like homework, or already fill in like a form, and then have like a presentation on Wednesday, or like already had to submit homework, and we had already like a Xiaokao on Tuesday. Xiaokao is like a small test. So I was like, I just cannot mentally do it. Like I cannot have like that much work on that front, and then also have my work myself. So I actually decided to step down a level. But if I would step down one level, I would get the same content as I had the last semester. So I didn't really want to do that. So I actually stepped down 2 levels. Um, and then it was actually too easy, because then we were doing stuff like, yeah, how do you ask the directions, or like very simple stuff. You know what I mean? So at that point, I was also like not really that motivated, and I would actually learn a lot more by actually going out there. So I kind of skipped a few classes. But yeah, they actually like said that they would kind of like make a note of it for immigration or that sort of stuff. But they were actually fine with it, because there were some other people that were doing the same thing. They would be there for like a part of the semester, or only for like, because a lot of students were there because their study in their home country required them to do a language course abroad. So there were a lot of students that were studying like international business or international relations, and they had to at least spend an amount of time in a different country learning a language. So that's basically where the study was mainly for. And then they would like go back to their home country and do like a test. So a lot of them, they would also skip like a lot of classes. And in the end, I also decided to. I mean, I was going to be in Taiwan for another month or so. So I decided to take my time and really enjoy the country as much as I could. So I did that with a bicycle trip. I rented the bicycle there, which is actually very easy, with Giant, because the Giants. I think Giant is also like a Taiwan brand. And then they have like different like stores, so you could actually rent a Giant bicycle at one store, and then you could ride it to a different store and like hand it in there, so you don't have to like go back to the same place, to the same shop. Plus it's very easy to take your bicycle on a train. So Taiwan is very cycling friendly. Like it's a very cycling friendly place. um, so I rented a bicycle. Now this bicycle was pretty simple. It was kind of like a touring bicycle. It had like racks, and I had like 2 bags on the back, and I had my backpack on top. But it was pretty like simple, and I remember the saddle hurt, like it hurt a lot. Like it was a very hard saddle, um, very painful, just like painful. Like it wasn't very comfortable. Like the first hour you're okay, but after like 1 hour of sitting on it, you just you're feeling very uncomfortable. I couldn't really change the saddle because I was only gonna have this bicycle for like a week, and I had planned it pretty like on time, like on the day. So I just had to deal with it, and there were times where I just had to like take a train in between certain parts, because I just couldn't make it in time. Um, so I did make video, but again, it's not very coherent, and that's part of the reason why I'm like putting off putting it on YouTube, because it's just, yeah, it's the thing is, because I made videos before, you kind of have an expectation of yourself, and that's kind of also the thing that's blocking you right now, because you're trying to come back. And for example, when I was in Svalbard, like I had pretty high expectation of myself and like my videos. Like I had to at least make them better than they were before. I bought this new camera as well, like so the quality had to be better than before. And when you realize that it's not that way, but you kind of have to put something out there, it's like a little step you have to take in order to get there. And that's kind of like what for me was kind of holding me back and postponing things. And then I had my work, and then like in Taiwan, I was just very busy with my study and my work. So in the end, I made a lot of video. I think there are maybe like 10 or 15 videos in total from Svalbard until now that I can still like edit and put up there. Um, But especially on this bike tour in Taiwan, I was just very, I don't know, a bit down on myself, and it kind of shines through the video. I remember like back in the day when I was in Australia, I was a very upbeat person. Like I was very positive, and it would kind of radiate on my surroundings. And I feel like in Taiwan I was a little bit less because I had certain expectations of myself and I couldn't make them. And I'm also a bit of a perfectionist, and if you know perfectionism, it can be very nice because it makes you work hard, but it can also really make you feel bad because you're not living up to your own expectation. And I was setting very high expectations for myself basically. And that's, I guess, one of the things that I learned from this trip is that I should definitely adjust them a bit to what I can do, because if you're working a full-time job, you don't like suddenly have time to do a lot of other things. So I thought I had time to and do the study and do my part-time work um and still do my workout and do a lot of other things, like for example work on YouTube or start promoting my application or start working on the application with Chayo Nation. So there was just a lot going on, and I feel like that kind of shines through those videos, which I'm a bit scared of putting them up there, especially when I was in Lutau, because it's very interesting. I know Matt is no longer here, unfortunately. He already went away. But I remember before I went to Lutau, like it's called Green Island in English. I'm saying Lutau in Chinese, but it's actually called Green Island. I would watch his videos, and then I was like, I need to have like I need to have a similar attitude or energy in my video, but I'm not similar to him. You know what I mean? Like, so I was like really comparing myself to other people, or I was comparing myself to my past self, even though I have changed. So it was very like I was kind of like already setting these crazy high expectations for myself, and then if only one thing was not living up to my expectation, I would already like be down on myself and be very negative. It's funny. I even hold like a diary, or it's not really like a diary. It's more like a journal. And sometimes I'm reading back, like back in the day, how I was feeling and that sort of stuff. And I remember like when I was reading this journal, I was very negative. I was like, oh, and then I went to the shit place, or I went to I was very negative. And it's not because Taiwan is a bad place, not at all. It's just that like I was not in a very good mood just because of my arrangement, just because I wanted to do too many things at the same time, basically. You're a storyteller in your vlogs. That's the thing. Like I love like, and that's one of the things I think that set maybe me apart, or that I know about myself, is that like if I can tell a story, then that sells. Like that's I was like back in the cycling days, I was very I was sharing everything that happened. I was sharing the ups, I was sharing the downs, I was sharing everything. And I remember when I went to Taiwan, I kind of wanted to mask off all of the down things that were happening and only talk about like the positive things. Like for example, oh, today I'm eating this awesome meal, or today I'm doing this awesome thing. And there were definitely situations where I was very positive, but at the same time, there were also times where I was really like getting very down and very negative. And at some point, it got so bad, I was in like a spiral. Like so that was this part, right? Like so I was like a bit you could even call it like a bit depressed, due to my perfectionism, that I wanted to live up to my own expectations, but I couldn't because I was just like too busy. Then there was this element of like being too busy, and then like a little bit like burnt out because you want to do like Chinese, and I could have easily like stepped down one level, but then again I didn't want to do that because I was able to get along with my fellow students, even though some of them were already like native Chinese. There was one girl that was like native Chinese, but she's lived in America a lot of the time, so she spoke Mandarin Chinese at home, but her vocabulary wasn't where she wanted it to be. So her Chinese was already like here. And I was kind of like faking it, but still making it, which was very interesting. But at some point, that was definitely taking its toll on me, just mentally. Um, and I knew I had to change something, and that's why I stepped down in the second semester, and and made the decisions that I made, basically, because like but that's the thing, you cannot really see it on Instagram, or you cannot really see it on these social media. And I feel like that's also the difference between now and, for example, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, where 4 or 5 years ago, the main platform was YouTube, and all of these people were vlogging real life, and with vlogging, what the cool thing was with vlogging is you can really develop a relationship with the person you're watching. And I feel like that also happened when I was making daily videos when I was cycling, is you really start to develop like a people can relate with you because you're sharing on such a elaborate level. You're making a 10-minute video of your day every single day. Like, it's not a 10-second thing, or like it's not a photo. It's 10 minutes where you share the highs, you share the lows, you share a lot of stuff. So it's very like it's more of like an in-depth look into a person's life. Now, they can still put on a mask, like they can still only share the positive things and not share the negative things, but it's still on like a different level than, let's say, what you have now with like reels or TikTok or anything like that. Like, that's very quick and superficial, and like it's different, you know what I mean? So that also didn't really help, because I knew that if I wanted to become successful, I would have to kind of go towards this way because the old like vlogs that used to be very popular are not too popular anymore. But yeah, there's still some vloggers out there. Like, for example, Jairo Nation still handles the same style like he did before, but I feel like even if he wants to do like, if he wants to reach a bigger audience, then I think currently the audience is on places like TikTok. But it's what I feel personally is that's like it's a bit superficial. Like you keep scrolling through TikTok and like you're scrolling for like an hour, and then you realize like, what have I been doing for the past hour? You know what I mean? So anyways, it was just a bit too much. And when I came back home, I brought my girlfriend, so that was like 1 month of like doing fun stuff with her. First we visited a lot of like the Dutch sites, and then we even did like a trip through Europe. Brought my camera as well on that trip. So we went to like Belgium, back to that place in France that I was the year before. Switzerland as well. We didn't go to the same place that I was last year, but we went to Switzerland. We went to Italy. We went to Germany, because apparently her favorite country is Germany. And then we drove back home, like a very action-packed road trip for like 2 weeks road trip. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. But now she's back because she has to pick up her study again, and I am kind of going back to my own routine. I feel like I'm finally kind of able to sort of think about what happened the past 5 months when I was in Taiwan, and kind of like really start to kind of like let it all kind of like sink in, and learn from it, because that's the main thing. I've learned a lot from this experience. I learned that there are mental and physical limitations to your time. Like, you cannot do too many things, and I'm a big fan of like focus. So like, if you have a full-time job, basically you don't really have much room for other focus, or your job is very like, how to say, like routine, so it only takes time. But if at the end of the day you still have like mental space for other things, which as a programmer you don't really have that, because you're mentally very involved in what you're doing, for 8 weeks or 8 hours a day. See, I'm getting a bit tired after 3 hours of talking. I'm getting a bit hungry too, so I'll probably quit soon. Still 11 viewers. That's very nice. Please say hi in the chat, because I often see the same people in the chat, but I want to see other people that are watching as well. Let me quickly read what Seal is saying. In daily life, you always need to do some kind of trade-off decisions. I think it is better and necessary to be yourself, especially for first-time visit and also in busier times. Exactly. I kind of regret it a little bit, because I did so many things at the same time, and it kind of hampered a little bit of the experience that I wanted to have there. I mean, it's not everything, right? Like, for example, the first week was amazing. I experienced a lot. I went to a lot of places. Like, I think the only place I haven't been to is maybe Usan or Penghu Islands. I haven't been to. I've been to Green Island. Spent a couple days there. That was like towards the end of my Taiwan time, and that was actually a really nice ending because I actually met some like Taiwanese people there that were working there during the summer holiday, and they even took me out on like a scuba diving trip and that sort of stuff. So that was like when I was there, I was like, yeah, Traveling Tice is back, sort of like that was like the traveling guy that I used to be before. And in addition, in serious corona measurement condition of Taiwan will give you additional stress. You already disagree, yeah. That's a huge factor as well, Seal. And I feel it is a bit sad because like in normal daily life you might not have that much effect from it, but definitely the tourist industry there's like permanent damage. Especially places like Hualien, or you have like Jiufen up in Taipei. Like basically all of like the tourist industry there has suffered such good. Like there is a lot of like domestic tourism as well. Like a lot of times people they like to travel around the island, right? So also when I was in Green Island, I noticed there was a lot of people coming in from the mainland, mostly during the weekend. But then, for example, in another day, I was in Puli, in Nantou, which is like in central Taiwan. And then there was this like hostel where I was staying at, and then he said like, yeah, before there were like daily travelers coming in here, but since Corona, it's been like once a month we meet a Westerner or like a person that's not native Taiwanese or not living in Taiwan, and most of the Westerners that he got at that point were already pretty proficient in Taiwan in Chinese. So that was pretty interesting because like even in Tainan, like they kind of assumed that you already spoke Chinese because if you were there at that time, you were either working there or you were a student or maybe like an English teacher, which is a pretty popular job there as well. So indeed, there was definitely some stress and some stuff like that, which didn't really add to the experience. But I'm very glad I still cycled, did like my cycling trip, and did many other trips when I was there. That was definitely great. But yeah, at some point, Tainan became really like a bit difficult because I because of the stress. You also like I'm pretty introverted. Well, I wouldn't say I'm like an introvert, but I if I'm stressed or if my energy level is low, I don't like to meet people because then that drains my energy even more. Right. So after like a long day of work and study, I wasn't really keen on like meeting a lot of people. So like sometimes I would go out for dinner, like for example with classmates or stuff like that. But at some point I still had to go out for food. You know what I mean? Because like I didn't have a kitchen. So at some point, like I was even like it was very hard to go out and find a place to eat because like I didn't want to be seen in public because like Taiwan, like people when they see a Westerner, they always like to go to that person, and then you have to like kind of be nice and like enthusiastic and that sort of stuff because I can be very enthusiastic, but I also need my downtime. You know what I mean? So like because I didn't have that downtime, those type of things also became a bit stressful, which of course they shouldn't be. They should be very nice things, but they have been very nice as well. Like I remember at some point I was sitting like at a Hong Kong duck restaurant, and then I was talking to this guy, and then he's like, "Oh, next time if you come, I 我请你," which is like I pay for you, like that sort of stuff. Like it's very interesting because like just maybe because of your looks still, like they're kind of like, wow, you're foreign, you're interesting. I wouldn't say it's like discriminative or anything like that. It's just more like just an interest for the unknown, because especially in a place like Tainan where you don't really see a whole lot of foreigners, it's a pretty interesting thing. Or I think in Chiayi it was even more because that place doesn't really get a whole lot of of visitors. But so that was very interesting. So yes, I will be back. Of course, like I'm gonna go back there probably next year. So maybe let's finish off this live stream. God, I'm gonna get tired. 3-hour live stream. Let's go. The private time of all, it's like the switch on off, but timers are too kindly sometimes make you feel special. Okay, you kind of get it, because like, yeah, indeed, you sometimes you just want to like have like an off switch. Like, for example, here, if I want to go for like a bike ride, or if I want to go to like, I don't know, I want to go anywhere, like people generally like kind of leave you alone. And in Taiwan, they also leave you alone like most of the time. But there is also this kind of like, if you're sitting somewhere, like, for example, if I was sitting in a restaurant by myself, 9 out of 10 times there would be someone coming to me and wanting to talk to me. And then there can be anything. There can be just like just a conversation, like, hey, where you're from, like this sort of stuff. Like nothing. They don't want to sell you something or anything like that. Like, it's nothing like that. But if you just want to enjoy your food with a video on the side, and you don't really want like social interaction, then that's a bit harder to do there. So then I would often get like white Thai, so I would like order food in, or I would like get take away. That sort of stuff. But yeah, but the best food you would get on the night markets. Like, there was like a very big night market close to where I was living, like Tatong night market. I think Sil probably knows it as well. There was like, I think on Are we back? I think there's no sound. The sound? Oh, there is sound. Okay. Oh, nice. I thought actually there was not gonna be any sound. Let me get rid of that like weird thing again. Wait a second. Oh, let's see. All right. See, there's like this little. You see this line? Yeah, it's strange. Let me get it out. There we go here. Whoa. All right. Okay. I think we're good. Is there really sound, guys? Because I'm not seeing the sound meter. Okay. People can hear me. Great. Nice. Okay. Yeah, nice. Okay, let's wrap it up then. Yeah, the battery died, even though it's in USB. So I guess it's kind of working, but not really, because maybe it's sucking too much power. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, where were we? Yeah, weird. I know. It's and then the capture card is like this like TV type, like stripes. So it's pretty like, like you're out of the air. Anyway, good chats. Wow, I did not expect it. In the beginning, I was like, how long will I be able to talk? Well, there you go. 3.5 hours. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna wrap it up soon. So, oh yeah, I think we were at talking about the future, future plans. So currently, I'll be back home for at least 3 months. I'll be here. Uh, yeah, just like I'm gonna be working part time. I've been working full time for the past 5 weeks because I have taken 5 weeks off before that. This is another great thing about my job is that they were very flexible with me because I decided to really enjoy Taiwan. So I wanted to take like a couple of weeks off, and I also wanted to bring my girlfriend to the Netherlands or to Europe, and then I didn't want to like work while I was with her. So decided to take 5 weeks off, but I didn't have enough days to do that. So they allowed me to take 5 weeks off and then work for 5 weeks full time. So I'm currently working part time, which is like 20 hours a week. So it was like 5 weeks, 0 hours, and then 5 weeks of like 40 hours a week, basically. Um, and those 5 weeks finished last Friday. So now they asked me if I wanted to go back to full time, and I said, no, thank you. So I'll be working part time, which means I will have time for other things. For example, editing my YouTube again. Oh, my girlfriend is now asking me what's wrong. I think we're on stream, right? We should be back now. So yeah, that will be nice because I will have time to do other things. Now I want to edit my videos again, but I don't think I will do it right away. I first want to just take some time off. Like I just want to go to the gym again, or read a book, or just like take a little bit more time to let things like kind of like settle back in, and kind of like also look at like how I want to do the YouTube thing again. So that's sort of what's going on. And then after after those 3 months, I'll be back home probably until, or not probably, I've already booked the ticket. So I'll be home until January, beginning of January, like January 6th or 7th or something. And then we're going to be flying to Indonesia. Why Indonesia? Because my girlfriend is also going to Indonesia. And we are actually going to celebrate Chinese New Year. My girlfriend is interesting because she is Indonesian, right? But she is Chinese Indonesian. So that means that it's like Hakka, which is like kerja, kerjaan. Hakka, if actually Prosi is another. If you want to learn more about Taiwan, then there's a channel called Prosi, or Prosi in Taiwan, I think. I actually followed him for a while as well. I think Matt even met him once when he was in Taiwan, and he has a video on Hakka as well. So there's like Taiwanese Hakka, but she's not Taiwanese Hakka. She is Indonesian Hakka. So, and Hakka is its own language as well. So it's like you have Taiwanese language, which is like to native Taiwan, Kejaran. And then you have Mandarin Chinese, which is like the lingua franca there. It's kind of like you would kind of call it like the English of Taiwan, but like a lot of people just speak Chinese from home already, like as a mother tongue. But then often their parents might still be speaking Taiwanese, or maybe the grandpa, they speak Taiwanese. Yeah, Shannon's like, yeah, I'm trying to explain it a bit. So she is, but she's speaking even a different dialect. So it's like you have Taiwanese, then you have Hakka, which is even another dialect. And then there's even a difference between Taiwan Hakka and Indonesian Hakka. Like it's not even the same thing. So it's like, it's a lot. And I'm trying to learn it a little bit. It has like 6 or 7 tones. So like, if you think Mandarin Chinese is already hard with 4 tones, try to do like 7 or 8 tones. It's insane. Taiwanese also has like 7 or 8 tones. Same goes for, I think, Cantonese as well. These are all like these different like Chinese dialects, but they're basically unintelligible to each other. But so we're going to Indonesia because we're going to celebrate Chinese New Year. And she is originally from Jakarta, which is like the capital city of Indonesia, 30 million people, huge like melting pot of different like Indonesian cultures. And we're gonna be here for a week, and then we're gonna go to her parents' birthplaces, which is in Borneo or Kalimantan. It's like this big, the biggest, I think the biggest island of Indonesia, but it's also like Malaysia is also on the island, and then there's like this small state of Brunei on there as well. So we're gonna go back to like the it's like Chinese New Year. Is that with the dragon? Yeah, but the dragon is also used for different occasions. It's just like part of Chinese culture, I guess. But yeah, that's Chinese New Year is indeed celebrated around the time. So we're gonna go back to like her parents' birthplace. I'll probably be able to make a video of that as well. That'll be very interesting. It's like a 6-hour drive from the nearest airport. So it's out there, man. Like it's in the middle of the jungle, or like in the middle of nowhere, or not really in the middle of nowhere, but it's rural. It's really like like local place that probably also doesn't really see that many tourists. So I look forward to that. Like that's gonna be amazing. Like that's gonna be really probably a very interesting adventure. So we're gonna be there for like I think 2 weeks. I think we're gonna celebrate Chinese New Year for like 2 weeks straight. I'll eat later. I'm almost finished. Sil says I find it difficult to study, but I think that you can. Yeah, that's the thing about me. I really like learning languages. So like for example, right now I'm already learning Indonesian, which I actually picked up before, but I'm relearning it a little bit. Still kind of like trying to keep up with my Chinese Mandarin. So in the end, I hope to be able to speak like Chinese, Indonesian, maybe a bit of like this Hakka language. Yeah, I know. Terima kasih. Yeah, that's that's indeed. I already forget like what is it in Hakka. I only know like hosit. Hosit is like how to, which means like how to eat. No, tasty. Like the food is good. Or in Taiwanese, it's like tia pabue, I think, which means like that means like have you eaten already? Anyway, like food is very very important in that culture. Yeah, I know. I'll eat the food, but I don't want to eat on the stream. That's lame. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I think it's time to wrap it up. But it feels good to be back. It feels nice. I yeah. No, yeah, it's been 3.5 hours, guys. Come on. Like, if people want to watch back this stream, they're gonna think like, how am I going to like watch back like a 3-hour, 3.5 hour stream? Anyway, it's like 3 p.m. at this point. It's 4 p.m. Wow, that's long. Anyway, it's been good. It's been a lot of fun. Anyway, so yeah, so Indonesia, that's the first real trip that's gonna come up. After Borneo, we may be traveling like around the area a bit more. We're gonna have 1 month together. Then she has to go back to Taiwan to study again. She's doing a bachelor, by the way. She's in her 3rd year, so that means she'll have to study for another 1.5 years or so. Like, yeah, a little over 1.5 years, like 1 3/4 years or something like that. But afterwards, she also has no idea, and I also have no idea where I want to go. So we'll see by that time. We'll see by that time how things are and with the world and everything. And that's kind of like how I'm looking at life at the moment as well, because it's really hard to plan things. Like it's really hard to plan ahead when the world can look so different in such a short amount of time. I mean, you have the war going on as well, which is a big thing. Like gas prices are insane over here. Like a lot of people, they have been paying or they're going to pay like 3 or 4 times as much on their electricity and gas bill like the energy bill than usual. You know, so it's a bit of crazy times, and yeah, like I kind of like kept, or I kind of am keeping my job because, you know, honestly speaking, it's like in Holland or in the Netherlands, terms for a job are really friendly. Like if you're trying to make your own business, it's difficult. But if you just want to get a job, you have a lot of perks. Like you have your insurance covered. You have what else? Like you get a lot of like money. I mean, there's a lot of tax you have to pay, but there's also a lot of security, and that's exactly the thing that I kind of don't see myself really fitting. Like I like very much like an insecure, or not really insecure, but like out of my comfort zone. You know, I want to get out of my comfort zone. You know, but the Dutch mindset is more like you should stay in your comfort zone. Yeah, like we help you to make it like very comfortable for you, so it's very difficult to lose your job. Or like for example, right now, like I technically cannot be fired, which is great, but like, you know, it also kind of makes you really stuck. You know what I mean? Like you're scared to take another step because you are afraid that you're gonna lose something big. And especially in these like economic times where things are very uncertain, um, I think it's actually a very good thing to have at least like something stable, some stable income. But I'm also very happy that now that I'm going to be going part time, I will have some time to experiment again and kind of like do my own things again. For example, like this map application and stuff like that. So that's it. I think that's about it. I have a one-way ticket to Indonesia, so I'm not sure what's going to happen after that. I may be going back to Australia, visiting my old friends there and my bicycle there, which I still have laying around in Australia. Yeah, like that's what I think Sydney, Mr. Preston said. Like where your bike is? Did you? Oh, yeah, did you sell your bike? No, it's still. I think it's still in Australia, sitting at my friend's garage. Um, yeah. It's still there. It's totally broken though. I remember like it was like one of my last days in Australia, and I was cycling it down a hill, and I don't know. I think I was shifting it wrong. Like I was shifting it too far in, and the derailleur basically caught in the spoke, and it just like bent itself into the wheel. So if I want to ride the bicycle again, I need to replace the derailleur. I probably just need to like replace the whole chain set, like the whole cassette and everything. I probably need to get a new wheel, or at least new spokes, if the wheel itself is not bent by the spoke bending. Um, Cycle Perth to Sydney, yeah, who knows? I'm actually waiting for Matt to arrive there, but you know he's currently doing a van trip starting at the other side of the globe. so yeah, that yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just I think if I want to go there and kind of like revive the bicycle again, it's more of like just for the story. You know what I mean? Like just like that bicycle's been there for so long, and but maybe I'll do some bicycle trips again. Even though I do have to be honest, uh, cycling is still fun. Like I still really like it. But for example, this Taiwan bicycle trip was a bit, how to say, I felt like it was something I had to do because Taiwan is a very cycling country. So a lot of people told me like, "Oh, you're probably gonna cycle there, right?" And I want to do cycle there, but like because I was leaving Taiwan on such a short notice, and I wanted to just do this bicycle trip as well. Um, I basically just planned it a bit wrong. Like you know, I had this like bicycle that wasn't super comfortable, and then it was like a bit too. I overestimated myself as well, like distance wise. Taiwan is super mountainous, like hilly, and even though they say it's a cycling country, but the road from like north of Hualien is super sketchy, man. Like there's no shoulder. There are these big trucks zipping past you. There are these like tunnels where you have like no space. yeah, that was a bit hairy, like pretty hairy, like situations to cycle in. So, but I mean, facility wise, I mean, you can take your bicycle on the train, and they have this like bicycle renting place. That's very nice. That's definitely very nice. So yeah, hey, who knows? Maybe I'll be back and doing some cycling. But like right now, for example, the bike that I have right now, which is like a racing bike, I really like that as well. And when I was in Switzerland, the first time I was there, like 1.5 years ago, I also really liked the mountain biking I did there. So yeah, there's still a lot. There's still a lot to do. But I also, for example, really liked the activities I did in Svalbard, like which was also cycling, but also like the the dog sledding and all that sort of stuff. So, anyways, let's wrap it up. My God, keep talking. Oh. So yeah, I'm probably gonna wrap it up right now. It's the longest live stream I've ever done. I've done a few live streams, but this is definitely like the longest one. Maybe we can do a New Year video in the Netherlands. Yeah, who knows? Like I really want, like, ideally I would want to catch up by the end of the year with my videos. So like edit my videos. By the way, my brother was gonna edit one of my videos, so I'm not sure when that's gonna be done. Yeah. So I think that's about it. Back to it now. Oh yeah, I can like do a New Year video and then explain my time here. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Yeah, I still want to have my channel. Like, I'm also kind of thinking like what I want to do with this channel, because I still want to have it like very travel related. I have been thinking of making like a separate channel for web development, or like combining web development with travel as well, which is a niche that there are a few YouTubers in. I think you have like this cycling. No, it's not cycling. It's like the coding nomad or something like that. You have like some coding and then like some of these channels. If you want to go into like more of the technical stuff that I'm doing at work, or even for myself, which I can also talk about for hours. Like literally, like the JavaScript frameworks that I'm building, or like the how to build your own application, all that sort of stuff. Like it's still pretty web based, so I'm making like web applications. Yeah, I know. I should indeed quit. But yeah, if like I'm doing like mostly like websites, but they have like a very application feel, and that's also why like why I really want to like promote Map My Tours a lot more. So yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. I think the next video you're going to see will be Svalbard Part 3, hopefully, and hopefully it will come out before the end of the year. Yeah, I think so. I think I will set aside my high expectation and be able to just throw it out there. But we'll see. We'll see. Anyways, thank you all for watching. If you were here live, thank you for being here. The 10 people that are still here, we have received 19 likes. I'm very, very happy with all of that. Happy that there is some engagement still. I wasn't really expecting that, so I'm very thankful for all of you that are still here. Like some of you that have already been there since like I was cycling, or tag along later when they saw my videos and that sort of stuff. So I'm very appreciative of all of you. Yeah, and I hope you'll enjoy the ride that's going to happen, and wherever it will take us, we'll see. All right then, thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. See you. Ciao ciao. Arrivederci. Bye.